Testing 1, 2, 3. Well, I'm going to say good morning, everyone. My name is Edwin Chavous, Small Farm Outreach Training Technical Assistance Coordinator here at Kentucky State University. And I'm delighted to bring welcome on behalf of Kentucky State University. We are excited to have our partners today, Community Farm Alliance, Black Soil, which have worked very hard to plan our program for today. We want to thank our president, Clara Ross Stamps, for requesting that we host the Kentucky State University Juneteenth celebration. I want to remind everyone of our July 21st KSU Field Day that will be here on July the 21st. We will have lots of activities and many workshops, and we look forward to seeing everyone there. But again, welcome. Glad you took out your busy schedule to come out on this beautiful day in the Commonwealth. Next, we will have a welcome by Ms. Tiffany Bellfield-El-Amin from Community Farm Alliance.
Good morning, everyone. I probably don't even need this whole entire mic, but I'll use it for sound. How's everyone doing this morning? It is definitely definitely thankful. Blessed and highly favored is what I like to say this week. I really appreciate everybody coming out. I know it's a very busy time, whether you're growing or working with growers. Summertime is just busy, so we're really fortunate for everybody to be here today. I just want to say hello. This program was put together with everybody here with farmers in mind. It's for us kind of like a recap, check-in from the Kentucky Black Farmers Conference. But the whole agenda is really to show what Community Farm Alliance is doing with their commitment to equity, our partners who are involved with this work around our voices being heard as marginalized or socially disadvantaged growers here in the state. And I really hope that somebody leaves with more information and I get to learn from other folks here in the room. So again, thank you, and I will let Ms. Ashley Smith.
Good morning, and thank you so much, Tiffany. My name is Ashley C. Smith. I'm one of the co-founders, and I serve as CEO of Black Soil KY. And I'd like to thank Kentucky State University and their administration, as well as our partners from Community Farm Alliance for allowing us to partner in today's event. As Tiffany and Mr. Chavous have already shared today, I echo our excitement to first celebrate together Juneteenth and what that means as agriculturalists or those who support those in the farming community. And we're really excited to share our updates of what we've been up to since the Kentucky Black Farmer Conference that happened in March in Lexington, Kentucky. Also want to give a plug for Soul Feast Week. It is in its second year. It is Lexington's 10-day Black Food and Restaurant Week and the role that Black Soil plays. And we'll talk a little bit more about that during our presentation. Following today's keynote speech from Mr. Jim Coleman is how the Kentucky Black Farmer is sourcing over 15 Lexington Black-owned restaurants for 10 days. We're also celebrating Soul Teen Saturday this coming up Saturday at Moondance Amphitheater located in Lexington's Beaumont neighborhood. So we'll explain a little bit more about how we work and have worked over the past 5 years. And now I'll turn it over to Mr. Chavous. Thank you again.
Next, we will have by Ms. Zania Tutwiler. She will sing Lift Every Voice and Sing.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicings rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound as loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us, facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on until victory is won. God of our wearies, God of our silent tears, thou who has brought us thus far on the way, thou who has by thy might led us into the light. Keep us forever in the path, we pray. Lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met thee. Lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun, let us march on till victory is won.
Let's give Ms. Tutwiler another hand. We're gonna do just what we're gonna do. We're just gonna do a quick flip-flop. But we're going to have Ms. Kimmie Ishmael to come forward and talk about the Farm Bill policy and your role Okay, I take that back. Now I see Mr. Martin. I see Mr. Martin Richard with Community Farm Alliance. I can say that over the years, I know when I started at Kentucky State 28 years ago, I had a working relationship with Mr. Richard. So when we have continued to been working together over the years. So at this time, let's give our undivided attention to Mr. Martin Richards.
Thanks, Edwin. You're giving away our age, Edwin. I'm sorry, I guess my timing is perfect, but I meant to be here earlier. Now we got to get technology going here. Great. Maybe. So, first of all, how many folks in here know who or what Community Farm Alliance is? I see a few hands, don't be shy. How many folks are members? Put them up higher. See who the members are, so if you have any questions, those folks can help you much better than I, perhaps. But nonetheless, CFA was formed during the farm crisis of the 1980s. How many folks remember or have heard of the farm crisis of the 1980s? Yeah, okay. For my family, it rings pretty true because my uncle lost my grandfather's dairy farm during that time. And, until I joined CFA, when I was transitioning our traditional cattle and tobacco farm into organics, and CFA was starting an organic farmers co-op, and I joined. Up until that time, I thought that my uncle just wasn't as good a farmer as my grandfather. But because of CFA, I learned all about the farm crisis, and I realized that my uncle lost that farm because of federal farm policy and all those other things, right? The whole Earl Butts, and I'm sure Larry remembers this well. Earl Butts, get big or get out, right? And my uncle tried to get big, and he ended up getting out. Anyway, CFA's been around for coming up on 37 years. I, honest to God, don't know how many members we have right now. We've got this bit of a thing, once a member, always a member. So folks may have not paid their $20 last year, but they're still a member in our heart, and that's what really counts. But that, and I don't know if Larry was there at that organizing meeting in Bardstown in July of 1985. Were you there, Larry? No, but shortly thereafter. But that meeting that organized CFA looked a lot like this room, because 37 years ago, we had a lot more black farmers in this state. And you all know better than I do about the systematic racism that's resulted in now having, actually, what is the count? 1.4%. Anyway, what does CFA do? So, we are a member-based organization. We're all across the state. Not so many folks west of I-65, or traditionally, that's kind of commodity country. But I have to say that more now, because of the Farmers Market Support Program, we have a lot more farmers markets in that program west of I-75 right now. But, and I was schooled very, very early on when I joined CFA, is that CFA does not advocate for people. We really avoid, or me being the voice in Frankfurt or Washington, me saying, I here represent all this folks. What our job is as CFA and as organizers is to help you be your voice in front of those folks. And especially for you all, right? You don't want this old white guy representing you all. So, this is our theory of change, right? We believe that people know their problems the best. And people also have a pretty good idea how to fix those problems. They also often don't know where to start. And I think that's where CFA comes in. We listen to folks on the ground, identify those problems, start thinking about what the solutions are, right? And it starts with families, it starts with communities, it starts building up the local alliances. And it turns out, right, the problems that somebody's having in one community, guess what? Right over the county line, same problems, right? They might not be communicating, but it's the same problems. So we help connect those folks. Movement building, right? I think that's what CFA is all about. And ultimately, one of the things we do is we create model programs or model projects that directly address those problems. But even more importantly, maybe, is that we use those as models to go to Frankfurt or go to Washington and say, hey, you pass this bill, you make this appropriation. What happened in this community can happen in many, many other communities. And we have done that about 24 times. But as hard as it is at times, or as frustrating as it is to pass legislation, it doesn't stop there, right? Because once that legislation is passed, it's how it is implemented, right? Is it implemented? Does it accomplish what folks said were the original problems? And that's why it's cycle. It's a circular thing. And the equity and transparency is an important part of that, right? Is what has been passed and how it is implemented, is it transparent to everybody, right? Is there an opportunity for everybody to benefit from that policy? And of course, as I mentioned earlier, it's leadership of folks on the ground, folks like you all, that make it all happen. So we got a couple big problems with agriculture in this country right now. First of all, and they're both historical, to be honest with you, and they're both tied to equity, right? They're both tied to, who has control of agriculture in this country right now. And of course, we have this long-standing system of injustice and racism. Going back to the beginnings of this country. This country is founded on agriculture, and agriculture is founded on exploitation. And one of the consequences of that, and this is of the federal farm policy since the 1930s, the overall federal policy towards agriculture is to produce as many calories as cheap as possible and the ability to stockpile those, right? And that's what's got us into this situation. Does this thing have a pointer on it? Nope. How do I go backwards? That's what's got us in such a situation on the right. We have gotten very, very good at producing calories cheap, right? And one of the consequences of that is, well, you can look at me right here. One of the and since I quit farming, I gained a lot of weight. And we got these two big problems right now, and they're linked together. We also have a huge opportunity right now, both in this state and in this country, to change both of those. All right, a little bit about CFA. We got a number of programs and stuff. Again, these all have come up from what folks on the ground said it needs to happen. Farmers Market Support Program started 2014, and it started from Eastern Kentucky when folks said, help us build farmers markets. So we did, and guess what? The same needs, the same problems that Eastern Kentucky folks are having, they're having all over this state, right? Even before Charles Booker popularized the phrase, Cassa Heron, who was actually our first woman of color board chair, had the phrase from the hoods to the hollers, right? In that, the same situations that were happening in West Louisville, where CFA is working, is the same situations that are happening in Eastern Kentucky. They may look different, the geography may look different, the population may look different, but they're the same doggone problems. Anyway, out of that grew the Kentucky Double Dollars program, because we looked at the Farm Bill, which we're in the process of rewriting in this country. 75% of the Farm Bill is devoted to food and nutrition programs like SNAP, WIC, so forth. And we looked and we said, of all the hundreds of millions of dollars that are coming in Kentucky, how can we get more of those dollars into farmers' pockets, right? Because most of it ended up in Benton, Arkansas. So, Double Dollars program helps capture more of those federal food and nutrition programs. Fresh RX program is an outgrowth of that, and if you haven't heard it yet, you're going to hear it soon. Food as medicine, right? That's the new catchphrase. And that's a program that is a prime example of what it looks like for food as medicine. And of course, the Farm to Table team works on the value chain to help farmers all across to grow, to become more profitable. All right, but the one I want to talk about today is what we call the Patchwork Initiative. So, and I'm probably running way over time, so, Tiff, poke me. Anyway, the Patchwork Initiative. So, I think back in 2018, 2019, at our annual meeting, we looked around and we wondered what happened to the diversity that was at the root of CFA. That annual meeting looked very white. And we got a problem, folks. So, we did a couple things. First of all is we spent some time, and I want to thank, Jim Embry for his help on that in, putting out our commitment to equity, to make it obvious, to make it out front that this work is important. It always has been, but somehow we just didn't make it front and center. We have made that front and center, as well as our commitment to democracy. And then we said, all right, let's get busy, let's roll up our sleeves, let's get to work around this issue. And so the Patchwork Initiative, you might not see that out there, but internally, that's what we call it. And what do we want to do? Well, there's these 4 pieces to the Patchwork Initiative. Again, and this has to be the beginning, right? This needs assessment that Tiff has been working on for a year, right? Support farmers of color in this state. Well, first of all, we got to know what they need, right? It's got to come from the grassroots up. What do farmers of color need in this state? And that's why we need these assessments, right? So if you have done one, Tiffany has poked you, you've done one, thank you. If you haven't, sharpen your stick. Because there ain't no sense in someone like me determining what folks need who are on the ground. And guess what? Nobody else knows it either, right? Including the USDA. So was that an amen? Something like that, okay. Anyway, and then based on that, let's build out a comprehensive support system, right? And that is a collaborative thing because despite what it may look like, there are a whole bunch of ag organizations in the state. They're almost all looking white, but they want to help. They want to help, and they're like, where do we begin? So, and KSU is a really important partner's work. That goes without saying maybe. So build out this support system. It won't happen overnight, but it's happening, and it's actually happening pretty quick. The other part of it is communications, right? The word has got to get out, and it's got to be led by farmers of color, right? Those voices that have been suppressed for years and years have got to be lifted up, have got to be put to the forefront. And each and every one of you are important to that work. We collectively all need your voice to be out in front on this work. And that includes, I think Vaughn is going to talk about our Blacker Berries podcast series, which is just one piece that we just started this year. And then the last part, we started this Black Farmer Fund back at the beginning of COVID, which affected everybody. And, there was some money coming into Kentucky to help farmers with that. Farm Aid was one of those who we had a relationship with for 37 years. Our board said, we want to set aside money specifically to support farmers of color who are often left out of these conversations, who often don't know about it. And that's what we did. And we've been able to raise money for it. and I don't know the count right now of how many farmers. There were just small grants, like $750, I think something like that, right? But there weren't any strings attached to it, right? Which is key to that. I mean, yeah, we want to know what you did, because funders want to know, well, what did you do, right? But to grow that fund, right? To grow that fund, to make it so that there is access to capital for Kentucky's farmers of color that you don't have to jump through a bunch of hoops for, right? That easy to get, and it could be loans, right? But if it is loans, right, as a farmer, one of the hardest parts about loans is the collateral, right? One thing we can do with this fund is use that fund as see what the smart folks told me, a high risk pool fund, right? To cover people's collateral for loans, right? Nobody takes out a loan with the intention of defaulting on it, but stuff happens. Anyway, did I pocket that thing? Yep. Oops. I think that was my last slide. I got two things I want to mention. I think you all hopefully are aware that in 2020, under the American Recovery Act, that the President and Congress set aside $4 billion for farmers of color debt relief through the USDA. And then several months later, there's a lawsuit filed, two lawsuits filed now, one in Texas, one in Wisconsin, by white farmers who are saying that this is discrimination. So that lawsuit is still pending, but I will say that CFA filed an amicus brief. I think I got that right. It's Latin, which basically says friend of the court. So CFA filed and said we support. We support the USDA, and this whole business in this lawsuit. I think we are the only organization in the state that did that, but we may also be the only organization who could do that because of our status to be able to do that. And then the last news that I heard, unless I missed something, is the Federation of Southern Cooperatives filed to be recognized as a party to that suit, and that has been granted. Is anything going to come of this? Let's hope so. Let's hope so before there's a change in administration. But we didn't. When we did that, the goal was not to toot our horns, right? But we try to do those kind of things for you all. I think that's it for me. Kimmie's going to talk, and then she and I have to run over to Frankfurt and talk to a legislator, but we will be back. Question? Okay, better.
Colored or black is used. Anytime that they are looking at trying to give the black farmers some money, that's a red flag to the white farmers. Say, hey, wait a minute, they're going to give them black folks some money, so we need to find out why we need to do whatever we can to stop this. So my question is, what is going on with these lawsuits to prevent the money that we're supposed to be receiving? Why is it being held up? That is my question. What's the purpose for these lawsuits?
What's the purpose? It's to hold it up. That's what it is.
Because it's a known fact that we have been discriminated against. My grandfather, I have 300 acres now.
Mm-hmm.
Barns falling down, I need fencing. I'm on Social Security, so I cannot fix that. I would love to upgrade the farm and do something positive with it. All I'm doing is just digging in the dirt every year, and nothing's happening. And the discrimination and the racism continues to move forward, and our federal government is not doing anything. So I feel our optimistic when I hear about the CFA and what they're trying to do. But nothing, when I leave here today, nothing's still not going to happen. Racism and discrimination is still going to move forward in this country.
Everything you said is true, right? In the case of this lawsuit, you've got to look behind the curtain, right? You know, in these two lawsuits, again, one in Texas and one in Wisconsin, right? You know, and you look at who the plaintiffs are in those, and again, it's a handful of white farmers. But you got to look at who's supporting this, right? It's not the white farmers, right? It's the, as you know, there's rampant racism. There's actual structural racism. There are organizations.
You know that, but the United States denies it. There's no systematic racism. It just goes on and on. My home is worth maybe $250,000 that I live in today and now. I can't even go to the bank and get an equity loan. And my house is all less than, all about $28,000 on my house need to be paid off. So I have an equity build up and I can't even go buy a loan. So the racism and the discrimination continues to move forward. So we come here to these meetings and we get built, we get excited. Okay, hey, CFA, they're going to be a voice for me, but nothing happens.
I hope that is not the case. Actually, yeah, TIAF Crest is actually the largest landowner in the nation. Tiff.
I was going to say that I'm going to dig even deeper on what Martin cracked open as far as the equity work and what organizations and what universities and programs have now rallied with the Federation of Southern Cooperatives to do the countersuit. It took them months, the white farmers, to organize this and then file suit. So black farmers have been giving their comments. The whole last part of this third Thursday is going in the hallway and talking to organizations that have power who are getting comments, and that's literally all it is white farmers said, here's our comments, here's our interviews, here's our paperwork, this is why we think it's not right. Judge said, okay, so now we have to countersuit it. And that's where we're at. We're at the very brink of countersuit. Now, I understand what you're saying, Mr. Shirley. There's more than just you here that has these USDA loans, and more than just you that have been trying to get loans on their farms that are worth a lot of money. I went through a fight myself. So all I can say is that we are the people who are beginning this system of change. So you are the infrastructural piece. What you're saying right now, just right what you just said, is what the pieces that they're going to use to file this countersuit. I don't know what's going to come of it, but I didn't think we'd ever get a countersuit. Swear to God. Like, I've been complaining about countersuit for 3 months. So I just wanted to say that we're part of the patchwork to get the voices out, but we don't have an end goal either. And I don't think the white farmers who did the claim has the end goal. They just want to stop the progress, So I just wanted to say that. And there's another question. So, and I will say that Martin and Kimmie are on borrowed time. So after this question, if we can hold questions and answers to the end, would that be okay with K-State? Here's your question.
Quick comment. I'm an attorney, and this is not specific to this lawsuit, but a lot of times you got to look in the background. You need what's called standing to bring a lawsuit. You can't just sue somebody because you feel like it. So a lot of times there's big money behind these lawsuits that's just looking for some pawns to get standing. So it might not be these white farmers that are actually doing it. They just might be being used as pawns by the man to bring this lawsuit and get big business more money.
Exactly what I was saying about looking behind the curtain, right? Looking behind the curtain. All right. Like I said, I will be back because I want to be here, and I hope I don't miss lunch. Thank you, Edwin. I take up too much time. Oh, wait, I do. One other thing, because this just came up yesterday. So the Farm Service Agency is now accepting nominations for farmers to serve on the local county committees. That just opened up. And I want to bring it to your attention. If you're interested, like, well, how does this work, right? I mean, talk to Tiffany more about it, but this is another opportunity for you all, for farmers of color, to get on these historically white local committees, whether it's NRCS or it's FSA or anything, or extension or anything like that. Got to show up, got to have the voices heard. Thanks.
Okay, let's give Mr. Martin Richards a hand. Next, we're going to have Ms. Kimmie Ishmael with Community Farm Alliance. She's going to talk with us about Farm Bill policy and your role. Let's give Ms. Ishmael our undivided attention.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. How are you all doing today? Good? Thumbs up? All right. Okay, let's see here. Got to figure this out. All right, so I'm Kimmie Ishmael. I am the policy campaign coordinator at Community Farm Alliance. I work a lot on policy, but I do a lot of advocacy work as well and grassroots organizing. So today we're going to be talking about policy, yes, but briefly, but we're really going to be talking about how to become an advocate. What does that mean, and how can you all become your own advocates? So today we're talking about, what is policy, the power of policy and advocacy. We'll do a brief overview of the Kentucky General Assembly, and then we'll talk about advocacy and resources. I just have one of my favorite quotes here. I want to get everybody inspired. Never ever be afraid to make some noise and get in good trouble, necessary trouble. So we all want to get in some good trouble when we're becoming an advocate. So, what is policy? I tend to say, when people ask me this question or come to me, I always say policy is about people. They're like, what does that mean? That makes no sense to me. Well, it's enacted by people, it impacts people, it's built by people, and that's the core of this, is we're in this together. It's all about people and the impacts that it has on our communities and the people that we surround ourselves with. But truly, according to dictionary, policy is a course of principle that's usually enacted by the government, a business, or somebody of the sorts. But here we have our policy cycle. Martin kind of talked about our theory of change, but this is a cycle that talks about policy. You have your strategic thinking, meaning what is your issue? What is the thing that you care about most? And then you have the development of the policy, talking to those decision makers, finding out what the solution is, and then the implementation of this policy, super important. And that is your time to research and say, is this policy working? Is this implemented correctly? And take that back to the very beginning of strategic thinking and say, how can we make this better? All right, the power of policy and advocacy. So here, also one of my favorite quotes, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. So that is all of you, all of us in this room making that change. Here I've just provided a few examples from CFA's past policy work. So since 1985, we have influenced over 24 pieces of legislation. Super important, very awesome of our members to be advocates for themselves and for other members. Like in 1990, CFA helped adopt House Bill 557. This helped provide loans to farmers and to negotiate with the Kentucky National Bank to increase capital for Kentucky farmers. Then we had in 2000, House Bill 611. A lot of you might be familiar with the tobacco the tobacco settlement funds that happened in the year 2000. Actually, Martin was testified at that committee hearing, so we had members there speaking up as well. And then in 2019, we CFA members helped draft and pass House Bill 468, which expanded allowable items for home-based processing. So that allowed so many more bakers to bake out of their own homes instead of commercial kitchens and things like that, able to sell. And just a few pictures here I wanted to share with you all. So we have some farmers here marching for dairy and dairy farmers. Then we have over here to the right, CFA met over 40 times one year to talk with legislators about farm to food banks. And then up here in the corner with me, I have two farmers, Carissa Arnold and Ted Johnson, who testified with me at a committee hearing. So we'll take a quick detour here and talk about the 2022 legislative session and just some quick standouts about what came out of this session and what we could see. So the highlights are, we have three highlights here. The Farm to Food Banks program, it was grown from $500,000 to $600,000. That's very good. That's going to help our farmers. And then Senate Bill 42. This allowed exemptions for fresh produce and meat products for schools to help with negotiation costs. So this will allow more schools to be able to purchase locally without the other competitive prices from big companies. So, and then we have a House concurrent resolution. If you're not familiar, a concurrent resolution is not a law, but it just signifies that the state legislature recognizes this issue and problem. So it recognized this year that it would like more schools in Kentucky to follow a farm-to-school concept. So now the legislature knows we are interested in farm-to-school issues. But with this legislative session, we had so many missed opportunities, and that is where all of you come in. We had problems with supply chains. How long have we talked about that? Supply chains, especially with the pandemic. The Healthy Farm and Food Fund, which would help programs like our Kentucky Double Dollar program expand. We missed the Farm to School pilot program. We also had no bills on climate and solar. We had nothing passed with soil conservation, nothing with land equity, and nothing with meat processing. And these are all issues that everyone in here, I'm sure, cares about, and also all of our CFA members care about. But guess who doesn't know? Is our legislators, and we need to tell them. So what is advocacy? Advocacy is education with passion. It's somebody who listens, it's somebody who connects, someone who speaks, and someone who acts. And an advocate is a person that is passionate about an issue or passionate about people. Everybody can be an advocate. And this is one of my favorite pictures, all the small fish eating the big fish, because that's what we need to do. They cannot come at us when we have numbers. So how does advocacy work? Super simple answer. You. I know that sounds way too simple, but it's really you. I always say, legislators do not work for them. They work for us. We voted them into office to work for us. We are their constituents, and they are there to listen to us. The governor is elected by us, and democracy requires that voices of the people be heard. And most importantly, this last one here, policymakers cannot serve you unless they hear from you. That is a major, major thing. We want to make sure they hear from us. How are they going to know that we care about supply chains if we don't go tell them? So what do you need to be an effective advocate? We need to understand the process of policymaking. This could be a barrier for some people. How does a bill get passed? Who are the decision makers? What is the process of of what I need to do to help solve this issue that I care about. But you want to prepare for defense as well as offense. Always know your facts. And for sure know your time frame of action. Like with the legislative session, you only get from January until March to help pass a bill. So always know your time frame. If it's a grant, know when your deadlines are. Engage others in the fight. Super important. We were talking about neighbors, other farmers. I'm sure everybody in here cares about an issue, and I'm sure someone next to you shares that same sentiment. And it's all about building community and building relationships. And then you want to specify your long-term goals and your short-term goals. What is the end that you want to see in this, and what are the small goals in between that help you get there? And identifying those policymakers, not just policymakers, but decision makers. We talk about the Kentucky Department of Agriculture, who there holds what you need. You know, somebody from the health department or somebody from the extension office, who has the answers for you? Who can give you what you want? And remember, it is all about relationships. Building those relationships, expanding your network, and building your base of grassroots organizers and people. So, big question that people ask me a lot. Why should it be my voice? You're the one up there doing all the talking, and you go to the meetings. Like, why should it be me? And like Martin said, nobody needs to hear from me. You all know your issues, and you all know what you care about. I spent a lot of my time being an activist, and it's important that they hear from the people that it is impacted and affected by. So, no one understands better than you all. No one understands the issues better than you all do. And also, big plus is you all don't care about politics. You care about the policy. You care about the solution to the issue that affects you. It doesn't matter if it's Democrat or Republican, it's the solution that you need. And you are knowledgeable about your issue, you care passionately, you provide accurate information because these are your experiences. And also, big thing now, you have access to free media. You no longer need to talk to a news station or a newspaper. You can go to Facebook and post, or Instagram and post, and build your network that way. Also, you can build grassroots support, engage coalitions, and of course, because you all are willing to speak up. And then I have Tatum on here, because he obviously wants to use his voice for better, and that is why it should be your voice, because no one can talk about what he's talking about better than him. So, if you all don't speak out, who will? Who will do it? I mean, you all don't want me and Martin to do it. You don't want your other neighbors to do it because they don't know about it as much as you. It's not impacting them as much as you. So if you don't speak out, other people are going to speak out, and they might be louder than you. Well, if I can do this. Oh, okay. So, some ways to advocate. What are some ways you're thinking, okay, I really care about this issue, I just don't know where to start. How do I even get involved in an issue I care about? So, there's many opportunities to join groups, networks. You can, of course, contact your legislator. Talking, again, with reporters, news outlets, attending community events, and then testifying at committee hearings. And here are some pictures I have. Again, Farmer Carissa Arnold with Pastor Kent from the Kentucky Council of Churches. They testified at a committee hearing together. There's me and Tanya Whitfield also at another committee hearing. She is a mom and an advocate, and she speaks up for children who don't have food. So, and there she is again on the bottom speaking on a panel at the Kentucky Local Food Summit. So there's so many opportunities for you to raise your voice, participate and advocate for yourself and for your neighbors. So, lastly, some resources. Where do you go to do all this stuff? And I'm going to provide a couple of things here through Community Farm Alliance. So through CFA, we do have 4 working groups. These groups we talk about everything. We talk about issues that you care about and solutions to those issues. We talk about policy. We talk about programs and solutions to things that we're seeing in real life. We have our climate change working group, our local meat working group, the Healthy Farm and Food working group, and then coming soon, we're gonna have a Farm Bill 101. With the Farm Bill 101, we're gonna be talking about what is the Farm Bill, what is in it, what does it mean, and where do we fit into this? What issues are we caring about that we're gonna see in the Farm Bill or that we don't see in the Farm Bill that we would like to see? And then CFA also works with a group, Kentucky Food Action Network. It is a network of multiple organizations and activists and advocates and volunteers. And we have 4 working groups there as well. And the Ag and Food Systems Working Group, they actually did, in collaboration with the Child Feeding Group, they did a whole paper on farm to school and why it's important and what was successful in other states. So that is something that these groups do. We also have a child feeding group, the Food and Nutrition Program group, and then we're gonna have Farm Bill trainings coming up that is gonna be similar to the working group that CFA has. So these are some ways that you all can get involved. I've put the websites on there so you all can go there and sign up. But I've also put my personal email on here so you guys feel free to ask me any questions or go to the website and say, this isn't working, but I really want to join this group. Or just message me and say, actually, I care about this one specific issue, but I don't see it on here. Is there any resources that you can give me? All right. So, any questions or comments? Tiffany.
In the Farm Bill, but some of the language and the jargon and like how does this really impact me versus everybody? So do we have a timeline at all for that?
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out because I didn't do that. So the timeline for the Farm Bill, it's going to start in July. That's when we're going to hopefully start trainings, building the trainings, and figuring all of that out. The Congress goes on recess in August. So when they get back, that's when the Farm Bill will really start hitting the ground running. So we're using kind of July, August to prep and learn about it and say, okay, this is what the Farm Bill is, here's what I'm expecting in it. And then when they get back from recess and start like actually, drafting the bill and changing things, that's when a lot of these working groups will really start picking up. Hopefully we'll have multiple bi-weekly meetings talking about it if that is what our members would like to see. So that's kind of the timeline right now, spending the rest of the summer educating, learning, and then as soon as August comes around, that's when Congress will pick back up and we'll be doing a whole lot more advocacy that way.
Could you put your email up again? I just want to
yeah.
that.
Totally. Oh, there we go.
What are the key components
Yeah.
go into it?
So I'm still learning myself. This is my first Farm Bill. So it's 75% nutrition, food, SNAP, WIC, senior programs, things like that. But we're hoping to see a whole lot more food incentive programs this year, like our Kentucky Double Dollar program, some farmers market funding, but also seeing what's going to be there equity-wise and trying to expand on that, seeing where that lies. Not 100% sure on all the stuff that is in the Farm Bill that is dealing with that, but that is a lot of it.
Can I follow up on that?
Yeah, follow up with that. He's done more farm
That's right. 75% is WIC, SNAP, all those, the 14 or 18, federal nutrition program. But there's so much more, right, to it. I mean, that's why we got to do a 101 training, right? So what's everything in it? I said earlier, there's a huge opportunity right now. I don't know how public it is, and CFA has got to step up to this too. The White House, they're having a White House conference on hunger, nutrition, and health. The last one they did was during the Nixon administration, and that resulted in significant changes, especially to WIC and SNAP programs. So that conference is going to end up in September. But right now, there are convenings, there are opportunities for input into the White House for this. But they've identified, and kind of like what I put up there, right? We've got a problem in this country related to nutrition-related illnesses, right? And they want to do something about it, right? Which again, I think is the opportunity to change 80 years of federal farm policy from cheap calories to let's start producing nutrition, right? From the farmer's point of view all the way up and make that accessible to everybody, make it affordable. And so that is an opportunity, and it's no coincidence that the Farm Bill is happening at the same time for this. And so there is the opportunity to reshape the Farm Bill to have that different kind of focus on it. But there's so many other pieces in there, including crop insurance, right? If you are a fruit and vegetable or specialty crop grower, if you tried to get crop insurance, you know that it is complicated, and it is only the most stubborn person who's going to stick with it, right? I mean, I think for most farmers, you try to do that and you just say, give up. It's like, I ain't got time to do this. I got field work to do. So, there's a lot of those kind of things. This is a huge opportunity. I do want to say this August recess is also an opportunity, right? Because we still have this real partisanship, not only in Frankfurt, but in Washington, and especially in Kentucky, right? So in August, whether it's Senate or Congress, they typically, or they're supposedly supposed to have town hall meeting. It's their opportunity to hear from their constituents. I don't know what any of the schedules are for a Kentucky delegation, but they will be back. And so it is an opportunity, either organized or intentionally, for all of us to reach out and, let it be known. I mean, Tatum can reach out to Andy Barr and just say, hey, I'm a farmer in Madison County, and I'm really concerned about this, and this, right? You've done it. You've introduced yourself. Now, whether Andy Barr remembers any of that, but he'll probably remember your name, so that come follow up is that you follow up with him. Hopefully the bell will go off. Sorry to take up too much time there.
No, you're fine. You explained it better than me. So, Lori. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so we do have a CFA table right out here outside this door. There's a sign-up sheet for all of our newsletters, so the policy, all the groups, everything that we do, you can sign up and get all of those for that.
One area that I think a lot of farmers, I know for myself, could use help on, and I've gotten it with Grant, is to have a talented manager or someone that's got the experience to give you a fresh outlook on how to make your farm profitable. Mm-hmm. I mean, not everybody's as successful as Susan Miller. I mean, she's a multimillionaire farmer. Mm-hmm. But the rest of us need a little bit of direction and help. And if we could get some help through a farm bill, through workforce development, to help offset that expense so that we could all have access to, not a financial grant, but a grant farm manager, that would really move the needle for a lot of farmers, all farmers from all backgrounds you've got cattle farmers in Kentucky, most of them are unprofitable. Mm-hmm. And they keep doing it every single year, and they invest a lot, fertilizer goes up, pest control goes up, and they lose more and more. And they need a fresh outlook from a student from UK or Kentucky State that might be able to show them how to grow 5 acres of blueberries and start making money. But how do you pay for that? Or how can you get some support to be able to help cover that expense for a farm manager?
Do you want? I thought you wanted to answer this, but I think I'll touch back on what Martin said. August kind of gives us this time period of these White House convenings to bring these issues up, and that's what our Farm Bill working group will be about, is talking about these issues, bringing those issues to us and saying, okay, how do we reach out and figure this out? What's our solution to this? And it might be calling Andy Barr, and it might be contacting Mitch McConnell's office. It might be talking to some other people. Go ahead, Tiffany.
I was going to say, I feel like this conversation is what started Farmers Market Support Program.
Yeah.
Markets are like, we cannot do this just a bunch of people. We need a market manager, and that cost share program was then built because of talking to legislators, putting it in a farm bill, and now we have farmers market support programming. So what you're saying, Mr. Coleman, can definitely ignite a whole programming just for small farmers, farm managers.
Yeah.
For sure.
I was kind of going to bring that up too and kind of say this would be an opportunity for a program. Like, you know what I mean? This seems like an opportunity. And then it becomes advocating, bringing the issue to us, bringing the issue to legislators, figuring that out and figuring out the solution to that. Cool. Any other questions or comments? All right. Well, thank you all for listening. I will hopefully be back later on this afternoon, so if you want to talk.
Thank you, Mr. Ishmael. Next, we will have Ms. Tiffany Bellfield-El-Amin, our commitment to equity.
Hello, everyone. Hopefully I don't have as much issues with the clicker as everybody else has. How is everybody? I know I said it earlier, but we've been sitting for a couple hours, y'all right? Okay, so I hate podium talk, as you might have. First of all, everybody raise your hand if you were at the Kentucky Black Farmers Conference this year in March. Raise your hand. Yes. All right, so if you were not there, we got to do this. We're going to do it again next year, so I hope that you all will be there. If you have been and you didn't do a post-conference survey, I have those. They're out on the CFA table. I really need those because Ashley Smith and I are planning with some of the other farmers next year's conference, and we really want to know where you guys wanted to be at. We want to go further in the region instead of staying in Lexington, and it's very short and sweet. I made it. Try to make every survey and assessment I give y'all less than 20 questions, because Lord have mercy, applications are enough. But with this, we get to figure out what sessions you want to talk about, what topics you guys want to talk about. Do you want a speaker? Do you want it to be farmer-led? We've had a lot of conversations going on, so we'll talk about that later. But what I'm going to talk about right now, I just want to start with that because it's pretty amazing, all the information that came from the Kentucky Black Farmers Conference, and then, of course, the year previous, the Kentucky Black Farmers Meetup. This is a picture from the conference this year, and this wonderful young man was a sophomore at Carter G. Woodson in Lexington, holding up this map that everybody in the room put their what they do and where they're at, and it turned into a larger map. So our commitment to equity, Martin talked about it a little bit, and you know, if anybody has talked to me, I like to keep it 100. So I'm a black farmer in Kentucky too. I'm from Madison County, right? And I work with a very diverse group of folks. So I realized that as doing work, as doing program and policy and change, that I never seen myself in places. Now, that it was not to cut the legs off of anybody, but it just was the truth. Like, everywhere I went, there was nobody that looked like me, whether sitting next to me or speaking. So we did the Black Farmers Needs Assessment, Lori, raise your hand. Lori and I are 2 of 3 parts of the Farm to Table, which is that program that Kimmie and Martin put on the screen. Farm to Table, we are out there with you all, trying to find markets, find places for you to sell, a better way for marketing. If a farmer comes to us with an issue, we're knocking on doors because who else is going to do it, right? With all of this, when COVID happened, like Martin said, and I'm not going to rehash everything, but it was real. Like, there's this money coming, you don't know when the money's coming, you are one of, there's 100 applicants, maybe 2 of us are black, and there were just inequities that we just had to face. Some people don't want to talk about it, it is what it is, but it's just real. We are always in competition, even if it is not a competitive grant or loan. It just is what it is. So Farm to Table team, we kept hearing stories about farmers, like, I just need a little bit of something, and the Farmer Fund was coordinated. So we had 52 farmers in 26 counties to do that Farmer Fund. When I found 52 black farmers, and me and Lori was talking to 52 black farmers, we were like, okay, we exist, but why are we not coming to places? Why are we not in solidarity? Where is everybody at? And as I knew, my elders were leaving, so I knew that was part of the transition. I knew that was part of the disconnect. So I just made it my point to just go super hard for black and brown farmers. Nobody told me how to do it. I just know it needed to be done. And a lot of waves started because of that. Now this is in 2020. So it's been 2 years of farming that is been happening. And so from the Black Farmer Fund and needs assessments was rolling out, a lot of organizations in Kentucky not just wanted to know about black farmers, but we realized that there was a change in Kentucky ag. Like, climate is changing, inflation is changing, our presidents, our directors, our extensions are turning over. We go to the extension one day, it's somebody, next day they're like, oh, well, they moved. Oh, okay. Then you're going to farm to school, and then you're talking to the food director, and you're like, I'm about to get in there, and then it's like, food director's gone. So there was so much happening, and we just had to figure out across the state with all our farmers, small farmers primarily, what do we need? When this happened, I was like, listen, that needs assessment is great. It's a little long. I don't know how many of my black farmers are gonna sit down and do that. Loan applications have been not in our, applications to assessments and surveys are kind of like this daunting, like, oh my God, I gotta figure this paperwork out. I don't wanna do this. So I was like, let me skim it down and let me ask questions that I would ask myself or questions that other farmers of color have been like, yeah, that's great, but this is still an issue and they're not handling it, or this is still a topic and it never gets addressed. So Black Farmers Needs Assessment went out. And from that, all of this great stuff was what black farmers and brown farmers said that they wanted and needed. We took this information, then we had the Black Farmer Meetup that had 58 farmers, 33 farms. That was in 2021, okay? So just, not that I need to read for y'all because I hate when people do that, but we needed more from our infrastructural systems. Everybody's doing so much stuff. USDA has NRCS and FSA and all these other departments, and then you have Kentucky State, and their extension is just vast. Then you got University of Kentucky, you've got Oak Association, you got Grow Appalachia, you got all these people, and we know them from namesake, but what do they do? Who do I go to? Do I go to you for loans and this one for high tunnels? Do I go to you for TA and this one for grant? Like, what does it all mean, right? And everybody wanted clear understanding of this. And then getting better connected to our farmers. This does not mean black farmer specific, and I feel like I'm blue in the face when I say that. I choose to put black farmers ahead or primary because we are the ones who have been socially disadvantaged in Kentucky historically. But there are socially disadvantaged and there are marginalizations of so many different demographics in Kentucky. I am from Eastern Kentucky, okay? It's its own culture out there. And just like Martin said, West is different from Central, different from Eastern, and we all going through some stuff. And black farmers are all across the state. So this is all that we really wanted to talk about, right? And so we did the Black Farmers Meetup, we got some stuff out, and then we decided that we wanted to come back and do it another year. So in 2021, the outreach. So Farm to Table team, we realized that we're watching the videos too, and we're looking at the links, and we're like, hell, I don't even get this. What is this stuff? So we skimmed things down and did our own versions of webinars just to say, this is what you need, get this done, this is how long you got, and if you need some help, talk to me. And so we went with PRS grant and CFAP. Does anybody know what PRS grant or CFAP is? Anybody? Has everybody not heard of this? Nobody. Sense the problem. So Corona Food Assistance Program, they had 2 rounds of funding, and they had it out everywhere, right? But nowhere where it really made sense. Then you had PRS grant, which was the Pandemic Response and Safety Grant. And I had a couple farmers that went through this process and got stuck and stopped and didn't know how to reach out to anybody until I put the flyer out, and it was too late. I was too late. These things have been going out. CFAP was how long, Lori? More than a year. These are 2 of the easiest grants that I've ever seen in my life. We tried to outreach, we tried to reach out and engage, and we had farmers successful, but that is part of the problem. There's so much out here, literally at our fingertips, we don't know where to go get it. And that's a patchwork issue, that's an equity issue, okay? So moving on, this is all of us from the first Kentucky Farmers Meetup, Main Farm Meetup. I thought it was great, we can see the pictures. Pictures are great. So in the past 2 years, right, we did the Black Farmers Fund, like Martin went over. We are now building a board for that. We as CFA realized that we can't move the Black Farmer Fund without Black farmers telling us where to move the fund. So it's literally been sitting for 2 years, y'all. Like, it's just sitting with dust on it. We've been hit with a lot of different things with COVID and the conference and stuff. So now this year we're at the point of organizing this board. If you would like to be on that board, please reach out to one of us. It ain't a lot of work. I just want to make sure that this money is going to where it needs to go and that everybody gets a fair chance on making the decisions on that. So 2022, we had the Kentucky Black Farmers Conference. It was amazing. I just want to, not that you have to speak, but does anybody have anything they want to say about the Black Farmers Conference last year? If you don't, that's fine. I like a Q&A. I like to engage. But anybody? Yes, Mr. Coleman.
I think the collaborative effort and all of the speakers that you had, all the way from our commissioner to all of the different farmers like Susan and the ones that are out there making it happen, you walk away with some really great ideas and you're more motivated. And I just thought it was an outstanding conference. You all did a great job.
Thank you so very much. Yeah, the biggest thing for me is representation. So it's only our fault that we're not represented. I know everybody here is busy in something. It's your farm, your job, your personal life. It's summer, kids are out, it's a drought. I get it. But there's Zooms, there's webinars, there's online meetings. There's so many different ways to represent us because, you know, for a while, it's like only about 5 or 6 of us representing a whole culture. And no, we shouldn't have to do that. We have to represent ourselves. And at that conference, we were a fair representation of everybody in the space. And like you said, it was a very big movement and a catalyst for a lot of organizations to say, well, we want that same people at our things. Well, you're right. We didn't know that there was this many Black farmers. Like, well, why aren't they at our things? And it's like, it's the relationship building, and it's not one-sided. It's on our end just as much as it is on the other person's end, and we have to bridge that. Or like Martin said and Kimmie said, when these farm bills and these big guns, these $1 million food incentive, food system loans and grants are going through, we don't have no idea. Then we look up and there's some gentrified piece of work in your neighborhood, and you're like, well, how the heck that get there? Well, they put some meetings out and you didn't go, and they put some flyers out and you didn't think it mattered, and now it matters, and there's so much that happens before that. So, Kentucky Black Farmers Conference, we try to connect everybody to the grants and stuff, and we realized there was a detachment from the organization. So this year we went into like connecting with the institutions. So working with our state FSA, NRCS, Mr. Greg Stone is here, hi. FSA, NRCS, and Feeding Kentucky Food Banks Kentucky. We are working with NRCS for June, July. FSA already has some webinars rolling out. Feeding Kentucky, this beautiful flyer down here at the bottom with their programs director, Sarah Vaughn. That informational up the top, just if you see the flyers, that's what they are. If you've been into anything where I have your email, I'm sending out emails. We have a Black Farmers Meetup in Facebook, and I'm sharing it. I need help, because if there is better ways to contact the ones in here who did not know about this, who were not at the Black Farmers Conference, let me know how I can connect. Again, solidarity. There's nothing else that I can say against that. But there was a big difference between 2021 PRS grant outreach and then me connecting farmers to the resources this year. Almost like 3 times as much engagement. So it's happening, but the biggest point of this is that I need everybody to have a relationship. I don't care if you think they don't like you. I don't care if you think that it's been systematically racist. It is. We know that. We understand that. We need to accept that. And once we accept that, you'll understand that there's a lot of people in these organizations who really want to help do the work. I myself had a lot of issues with a lot of organizations, and I had to put my feelings in my pocket and go knock on that door and get the resources. They got the resources. There's a whole lot of other people that they can and have been helping. It's up to us to actually step on the other side and say, I need help. I've had a lot of farmers doing that. And yes, they've had issues. And yes, they call me. And yes, I drive to West Kentucky. Yes, I get on the phone and talk to the FSA agent. And a lot of times it's comprehension. We talk a different language, not black and white. Farmers east, farmers west, farmers central, urban growers, large commodity, specialty crops, 1 acre versus 100 acres. We talk differently across the board, and we have to know that when we're speaking to agents and other farmers for help, period. So you all asked for a better way to connect with one another. We now have over 120 black farmers listed in what I call our directory. It is a prized gift. We do not share it with anybody. We worked very hard to build these relationships with these farmers. I actually met a couple farmers for the first time here today, and I've been talking to y'all for months. But this directory is now a place so when other organizations call and say, we have this great opportunity and we don't know how to talk to none of the black farmers, or we don't have no black farmers numbers, we'd be like, let's collab. And we get the information out. And that was the FSA webinar that was connected to a farmers coalition, and they needed help. The storytelling part later in the day, I'll go over that then, but that has a lot with partners saying we need black voices and we need to know what they need from us. And and I try to explain, it's not that easy to cross over, but our commitment to equity at CFA is to help that transition, help mend that Patchwork Initiative issue so we can continue to have the conversation and not be stuck in, 1964. So we also asked for a farmer-led cooperative. As a black farmer, I'm on that. If anybody knows the history of Kentucky State University and Miss Maddie Mack and all the great things she did with the Federation for Southern Cooperatives down in Epps, Alabama, we were once connected. We've taken a couple of trips and had a couple of meetings, and it kind of fizzled out. And now Miss Tanya Smith, one of our farmers, has taken up the reins, and we are now organizing another black-led, farmer-led co-op here in Kentucky, and that came from conversations at the Kentucky Black Farmers Conference this year. So I'm very excited about that. Now, you guys look kind of like, okay, why is this important? Like Mr. Shirley said, who is going to actually make this go? Like, yeah, we gonna talk, yeah, we gonna write, yeah, we gonna complain, and then we send in this little lawsuit, what's gonna happen? The more that we are connected with strong organizations of power and with the Federation, we have legal backbone. And that's something that farmers of color, I don't care if you're black, brown, or polka dot, we don't have a legal backbone. And I think if anything, that's the biggest thing that the Federation brings to the table is that they have lawyers, they have legalities, they have a whole chapter history behind them of doing this civil and I was gonna say civil rights work. It is civil rights work. Racism, equity, inclusivity work for black and brown farmers, okay? So that's why it's such a big deal. And then going to the next slide. Take a minute to breathe for a second. Understand that I'm very passionate about this. Can you tell? Can you tell I'm a little passionate about this? Because I come from an era where all we did was advocate for the farmer. And then to be an adult and having to scrounge for that advocacy and seeing a good 75% of my farmers not really care because they just need to get the work done. It scares me because we are the future. Farmers are the future of the world. Like, if we are not in solidarity to fight against big guns like big meat or big ag or big pharma, and we're just all scattered around getting the work done, guess what? We're gonna continue to be wiped out by big farms. And that is not a color thing, that is a Kentucky thing, and we all have to be together to fight against it. Have y'all seen how much eggs are? Do you see how much chicken is right now? Like, it's real and it's happening. So this picture shows, y'all seen the last picture, the first group? This is this year's group. That was great, amazing. This is a beautiful slide from Black Soil, but I wanted to put it up here because our commitment to equity through Farm to Table is to make sure that all farmers have a legitimate place to put their products, a legitimate market, and you don't feel like you are hustling so hard without an end goal. I have a lot of farmers who just, I grow it, and if I get it sold, I get it sold. If I don't, I give the rest away. No. There's markets out here, and that's part of the solidarity. If we meet more, we gather more, we learn more. And I promise you that there's so much opportunity to get yourself seen, your agribusiness seen and respected and branded, and actually get into markets that gives you revolving income, okay? So then you aren't over here fishing for loans and grants. You're doing that as supplement, okay? Coming from somebody who does it, who started with nothing, okay? And then this is the map. This is about 100 farmers who put their map on this map and actually registered for the Black Farmers Conference. Our commitment to equity also is identifying barriers and issues. I myself are working very hardly with other nonprofits and other organizations to help with the distribution and aggregation. We have a lot of farms that are out on the west part, but their best market is in central Kentucky. And they want to do it, but how do you do it? Another part of that solidarity in this farmer-led cooperative is that we're trying to find funding to help make that be so farmers don't have to come off their farm. There is other people who do this, but at what cost? What cost of losing your brand? What cost of not making sure your food gets there? Something that's farmer-focused instead of industry-focused. So, can I get a time check real quick? I'm to wrap up lunch because we have lunch at 11:30. What time is it? Look at God, listen. Okay, because I was just like, I can do this, we can make it go. Well, I will wrap up by saying that I hope that everybody stays for the whole program. It's gonna be great. You have to stay to the end. And I'll be back for the storytelling piece, and I hope that, the Juneteenth overview, where Elder Jim Embry, who knows Jim Embry? Anybody? Y'all, we got to hang out. Where's the family reunion at? Y'all got some farm events or something? Because we need to know each other. There's some new faces, and I'm just like, we need to know each other. But I'll be giving his words about what Juneteenth is and why is it important today that we included Juneteenth with the Kentucky State Third Thursday thing, which is every month with a new topic. Follow them on Facebook. So I'm going to give this back over to Mr. Chavous, and I thank you all for coming.
Okay, thank you, we're gonna break for lunch from now until 12:30, and then we'll get started back after lunch. But the restrooms are to my left, your right, this way, if you need to go to the restroom. And then right outside, we have lunch for you. You get your lunch, you can come back in and have lunch. The only thing that I ask is that everybody police up after themselves. Okay? So at this time, we're gonna, hold on just for a moment. Okay, just one housekeeping. I need for you to get your meal and come on back in, because we're gonna be getting started at 12, okay? But right before, we're gonna have the grace by a farmer in Anderson County, Miss Green.
I come in late and I have to pray, so I'll be on time next time. Bow your heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this gathering, and we praise you for the opportunity that Juneteenth has come to a realization that it's not a holiday, and people know that it's something that needs to be celebrated. Bless the food, bless the hands that prepared it, and bless all the farmers here, because I want them to know they contribute a whole lot to the world. In Jesus' name we do pray, amen.
So like I said, you can go to the restroom, and I would, please ma'am, please sir, you can get your lunch and then come on back in here, because we're going to get started back at 12 o'clock. I hope everyone have enjoyed their lunch, and we're going to continue with the program. Next on the program, we're going to have a voice performance by Ms. Tatiyana Dean. So, as you finish up your lunch, let's give Ms. Dean our undivided attention.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tatiyana Dean, and I just want to thank Tiffany. She just stepped out. I want to thank her for asking me to come out and sing. I didn't know I was going to be so interested by the farm life in Kentucky, specifically black farmers, but I'm really glad I came. So yeah, let me just get into this. I'm not going to use the mic. You guys can follow me on Instagram at Tatiyana Dean Music. That's TATIYANADEAN Music. I have stuff on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, everywhere. Thank you so much, and thank you, Tiffany.
Thank you, Ms. Dean. Next, I'm going to ask Dr. Courtney Owens, our interim associate extension administrator, to come forward and make some remarks.
Well, good afternoon. Y'all sleepy? Y'all just had a good meal? Let me do that again. Good afternoon. This is a wonderful occasion. I would like to first thank all of our community partners and everyone that had a part in today's event. Would you stand and take some kudos from everyone? So I'm here to introduce this, the greetings on behalf of the university. For Dr. Clara on staff, we have Dr. Emmanuel. But before I do that, I would be remiss if I did not talk about our conference here in Kentucky. So we will be having our 24th annual Small Limited Resource Minority Farmers Conference, November the 15th and 17th. So please mark your calendars. I wish I had the save the date today, but we will have some information in regards to that conference. We are proud to have that conference consecutively for 24 years. And so topics that we have discussed today are some of the topics that we have during the conference. And so we need to just come together and make sure that our voices are heard. I did want to talk about the Farm Bill really quickly because, you know, it was some discussions about the Farm Bill, but one major piece that I think that we didn't talk about, appropriations for cooperative extension is in the Farm Bill. And so we have to reallocate money every Farm Bill to make sure that Kentucky State, University of Kentucky receive federal funds so that we can do the work that we do for our farmers and stakeholders. So that's one important aspect that I wanted to talk about. But again, we have our 25th annual anniversary of our field day, which is coming up in July, as Mr. Chavous alluded to earlier. Please come out to that, and we look forward to having you at any event on Thursday moving forward. So on behalf of Dr. Kurt Pomper, our land grant director, I bring you greetings on behalf of land grant and cooperative extension. Moving forward, if you need anything, and for somebody was talking about advocating to our stakeholders, every March we go to Washington, D.C., and we allocate for the funds that come to Kentucky State, and we take stakeholders and farmers just like you. So if you're interested in serving in those capacities, please let us know, because they want to hear from you. They want to hear your voice. And so I wanted to throw that out there. But I would like to introduce Dr. Emmanuel, who serves as the Executive Director of Strategic Initiatives. She will come in her own way and provide greetings on behalf of Dr. Clara Ross-Stamps. Thank you.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Dr. Owens. I am so excited to be here. Good afternoon to everyone that is in the room. I do bring you greetings from Dr. Clara Ross-Stamps, Acting President of Kentucky State University. I have learned, like the young lady was saying, I have learned so much in being in this space just this little bit of time. I am excited. I'm not a girl that likes to get in the dirt, but I will promote the dirt. So I am backing you all 100%. I love the fact that you all are talking about this. One of the things that I really love, and I don't see him in the room right now, is Mr. Richards, the candor that he displayed about us being at the table and being represented. Nobody can speak on behalf of farmers, Black farmers, especially if you are doing this and have been doing this for a long time. One of the things that I have realized being at 4 land grant institutions is that it's just not about farming. Agriculture is everything. It's everything from the top of our head to the sole of our feet, the clothes we wear, the food we eat, the products we use. It is absolutely in everything that we do in our everyday lives. So I applaud you. I back you. We are excited that you are here at Kentucky State University. Please don't let this be your last time. We have more going on here than just farming. We have education, we have nursing, but guess what? It all works together, because if our food's not good, our health isn't good. So then we have to go to our nurses. So again, I thank you for being here. We love the fact that you have assembled here. Thank you to Land Grant Cooperative Extension for hosting this. This has just been awesome, awesome, awesome. I'm going to try to stay as long as I can, but I am working on a federal grant that I need to get to DC. But I'm just thankful for being here. And again, on the office representing the Office of the President, Dr. Clara Ross-Stamps, we greet you, we thank you, and please feel free to come to our campus anytime. Thank you.
Next, we're going to have our Juneteenth overview by Tiffany Belfield, Miss Tiffany Bellfield-El-Amin.
I know I need a microphone. Okay. Can you guys hear me? I'm going to talk while I walk, okay? A raise of hands everyone who has actually been a part of a Juneteenth celebration or actually knows what Juneteenth is. Raise of hands. All right, can y'all just give me one thing that you can say about Juneteenth? Where's our mic runner? I can use my mic too. Freedom, thank you, freedom. Yell it out, freedom. What's next? Taxes. Texas. Yes, okay. Anybody else? Oh, come on. There's people in the room that do not know nothing about Juneteenth. Honor. Mr. Shirley.
The comment is, I never heard of Juneteenth until 3 years ago. I was working with the guy at Vanderbilt in Nashville, and I asked him if he was going to celebrate, what are you going to do on the 4th of July? He said, the 4th of July? He said, I don't celebrate the 4th. I said, I celebrate Juneteenth. I said, what's that? And so to make a long story short, I know a whole lot more about it now, and I'm glad to be celebrating it, and I do not celebrate the 4th of July.
Amen. Amen. Yes. It's her birthday.
But understand that Juneteenth in Kentucky is different than Juneteenth in the rest of the world. Kentucky's Juneteenth is November, where everybody else's is Juneteenth. So we need to understand the difference. But it still happened, and we still celebrate it. Now, I told you I got a federal grant I'm working on. You know, my mind is kind of cloudy right now. So you're going to have to tell them.
All right, well, we'll break it down real quick, but so I come from a very religious, spiritual family, deep-rooted in Kentucky. Kentucky's Juneteenth is different because of how the slaves were freed from Texas on over to the southeast region of the United States. Juneteenth didn't come real big to me until the last few years. Cousin Jim, Elder Jim, would bring us into Lexington, and he did a lot of speaking about Juneteenth and how it's connection to us. I really wanted him to be here, but he shared words on Facebook and an email form, and I'll go over that. But before that, any Juneteenth celebration, we honor our ancestors. Juneteenth is a reunification for us to go back and connect with our elders and our ancestral history to understand why it's important and what freedoms that we may take for granted, but were paved and even granted to us because of our ancestors. Everybody has different ways of honoring their ancestors. In my family, we pour libations. And the pouring of libations is pouring into our ancestors. It is figurative. It's no different than some of the other things and traditions and rituals we do in our church and our other religious practices. So I don't want anybody to feel off by this. But if you have celebrated Juneteenth in a spiritual way, this is not new to you, okay? So I will say that I'm honoring my ancestors. I ask for you all to honor your ancestors as well. After I call out my ancestors' names, feel free to call out your ancestors' names as well. This is a call to our ancestors. And the ancestors are going to lead the rest of this conversation, and it's also an honor to recognize them, like I said before, without them. Without their path, without their stories, without their paper trails, without their narratives, we would not be sitting here. There would not be a Kentucky State University, and we would not still be here fighting for civil rights. And without them, I could not do this work. So I pour libations out for the Blues. I pour libations for the Broaduses, the Simpsons, and the Nolans. I pour libations for the Johnsons, the Turners, the Seals. I pour libations for the Chenaults, and I pour libations for the Tribbles and the Tevises. there's anybody else that has any ancestors that they would like to call out, I pour libations for your ancestors as well. Anybody that wants to call out to their ancestors? The Burrows, calling out to the Burrows. Any other ancestors? Levels, calling out to the Level ancestors. Any other ancestors? Haydens, calling out to the Hayden ancestors. Any other ancestors? Colemans, Mackenzie, Lewis, call them out. This is, yes. Amen. Ashe. Thank you. I appreciate that. They appreciate that. And I ask for every day you wake up, honor your ancestors, for without them we would not be. All right, so I'm going to go into, if you know Mr. Elder Jim Embry, he can definitely tell you forever about history here in Kentucky. And I'm going to read just a piece of what he wrote. And if you guys want this, I will send it out to everyone. Just let me know. Juneteenth, Freedom Day, Emancipation Day, and Reunification Day. Have you ever thought about what our country would look like if the Confederacy had won the war against the Union? We might not have a North and South Korea, or what used to be a North and South Vietnam, East Germany, West Germany. It would all look very different and be very different looking in North American landmass if there was a United States of Confederates and a United States of Yankees. In fact, the entire world configuration of countries, political movements, economic systems, religious systems, and all would look very different as well. For example, Germany right now would be the Nazi-fist ruler of Europe and Asia, and there would not be a UN, a EO, or a NATO. There may not have been a USA. So why don't we celebrate this unification is perplexing to me still. And I think the reason why is because it would be so closely aligned with Juneteenth and the emancipation of 4 million enslaved African Americans. It has taken us 150 years as a nation to embrace Juneteenth. But I hope it doesn't take us another 100 years to celebrate it and honor Reunification Day, which has a personal family significance to me. In my family, we had 3 great-grandfathers that mustered in Camp Nelson and fought with the U.S. colored troops, Brothers Jackson and George Ballou on my mom's side of the family, and Lewis Gilbert on my dad's side. Again, this is words from Jim Embry. They were all from the plantation farms in Madison County, Kentucky. Some 28,000 black troops from Kentucky served, which was the second highest in the state. Jackson Ballou served with his 12th Regiment and died early in the war. He is my direct lineage great-grandfather who left his widow, Elizabeth Ballou, with 7 children aged 16 to 2 years old. After the Civil War, Elizabeth not only survived after the death of her husband, but she thrived since all her children eventually owned small farms, and her youngest son, Don Carlos, my great-grandfather. He went to Berea College in 1879, became a school teacher, and began our family tradition as agrarian intellectual activists. Women like Elizabeth literally made a way out of no way. By most people's standards, she would be considered as illiterate since she could not read or write, but thanks to Elizabeth, who tenaciously survived with her children, inspired them all to lift as you climb. I can write this post today. Because of Elizabeth, Jim Embry is who he is today. Elizabeth, like Harriet Tubman, struggled for 30 years seeking pension compensation for her husband's war service, no different to the things that we're fighting for today. So Juneteenth for me is very much about remembering and honoring such ancestors as my great-grandfather. Invading Confederate troops, secure the border, and create a safe environment for General Granger to arrive. We must remember that generals don't actually fight the wars. They wait until the coast is clear and the dust is settled, and then they appear for the formal ceremonies, just like the proclamations and executive orders and such. But it was the sight of 10,000 black troops marching down the streets of Galveston, Texas, that angered those white folks, but it also inspired our enslaved ancestors to shout hallelujah and jump for joy. We ought to alter the narrative of Juneteenth, not as solely as the act of General Granger, but additionally the actions of these courageous black troops that fought for their own freedom, the freedom of their wives, the freedom of their children, family, friends, and fought to restore the Union. The majority of the 180,000 black men and women who enlisted to fight in the Civil War, and my 3 great-grandfathers were listed on the muster rolls as farmers. So when I'm speaking about the U.S. colored troops, I call this collect effort the legalized armed insurrection of black farmers. These soldiers who were listed as farmers put down their hoes, their shovels, and their farm tools and picked up rifles and swords. When the Civil War ended, many of these soldiers returned to farming and then returned their swords to plowshares. So when I celebrate Juneteenth, I am recognizing and honoring absolutely our collective struggles for freedom, our rich traditions, and that we carried from us from Africa, as well as those traditions developed here on Turtle Island. And I'm proudly remembering and honoring members of my family and all the various contributions and the struggles and the traditions. Our country still needs reckoning, it needs reconciliation, it needs reparations, it needs regeneration, and it needs revisionation, and of course, the reunification. Oh yes, I say it plain. America never was America to me, and yet I swear this oath, America will be. Langston Hughes. So, sorry I got a little teary-eyed, but that's my connection to Juneteenth. And that is Juneteenth to a lot of black farmers and agrarians here in the state. So that's all that I have to say, and I will pass it on. Thank you.
Let's give Ms. El-Amin another hand. Next, we're going to have our keynote address by Mr. Jim Coleman from Coleman Crest Farm in Lexington, Kentucky. At this time, let's receive Mr. Coleman.
Well, it is a pleasure to be here today. I've enjoyed every single moment of it, and it is good seeing a lot of our regular friends that we see at each of these regular events on a monthly basis. It is a pleasure also to be here at Kentucky State, and I'm going to share with you while I'm going through my speech here some slides to kind of help to cover the things and thoughts that I had on this very special day. This university is very special to me, and you'll see it up here in a few moments when we get to the slides. But there are some very powerful people that have come through Kentucky State. The heritage here and the history is unbelievable. And we need Kentucky State now more than ever, not just in Kentucky, but we need Kentucky State for our country. So I'd like to, are you all ready just about? There you go. Well, there are two big things. One is celebration about this beautiful land-grant university that we all love called Kentucky State University, as well as the Morrill Act that was approved by President Lincoln in 1862, then later expanded for black colleges and universities in 1890. These two major people made a big impact on agriculture, and certainly it led to us as a people in being able to participate in agriculture. I'd like to cover off on a few notable Kentucky State University graduates. The first is one of my heroes. His name is Whitney Young Jr. He was the executive director of the Urban League. And he was Mr. Dealmaker. He changed the lives for millions of Americans, especially African Americans, during his short, brief time. He was a graduate of Kentucky State, studied social work, and went out and wanted to change the world. President Nixon, when he was running for office, he was saying his whole campaign, he said, as soon as I get in office, I'm going to get rid of all these welfare programs, is what he thought they were all about. We're going to get rid of all this. And he had come back from his inauguration the next day and first day in office, in the Oval Office. He had this meeting with this gentleman from Kentucky State, Whitney Young. And within an hour conversation with Whitney Young, he not only changed his mind about getting rid of programs, and at the time he called them welfare, but it was really workforce development programs. He changed the president's mind from getting rid of these programs to tripling the funding for workforce development, which led to helping Americans across the country being able to get into the workforce. I remember seeing it on TV, and I was a little boy, but President Nixon came to his funeral in Lexington, Kentucky, and he said the genius behind Whitney Young is that he knew how to accomplish what others were merely for. And that's what Kentucky State is all about. This next gentleman, John Sleet, is one of my mother's good friends. They went to school here together at Kentucky State, and he was the big photographer for Ebony and Jet magazine. Anna Mack Clark, she was the first WAC officer that led an all-white company. And then Travis Grant, he was a major player on the Los Angeles Lakers. So this is the kind of thoroughbreds that we were producing back then. And it is just amazing with very limited opportunity that they had. They didn't have events like this. They didn't have access to government and power. They didn't have an Obama or a Kamala in office yet. But they were able to accomplish so much, and they were able to contribute so much to our society. The next page, I'm going to show you the two most important noble Kentuckians that went to Kentucky State that I adore and that changed my life, and I wouldn't even be up here today if it were not for them and for Kentucky State. Sis, please make sure that Doc knows this, please. Kentucky State is very, very important to me. If Kentucky State did not exist, I literally would not be alive. Okay? It ain't, I might not be doing as well, I might not be as rich as I am, I wouldn't be alive, okay? Kentucky State created Jim Coleman with these two powerful people, my mother and my father. My father, Sam Coleman, who grew up on a little farm that his grandfather purchased, who was a slave, and got $1,200 from the Union Benevolent Society. And that one opportunity changed the lives of all of his grandchildren, and it impacted over 300, but it helped to send my father to college. And he studied agriculture. He was the secretary of the Future Farmers Association here at Kentucky State. Look at how they were dressed, y'all. They were not playing. Do they look serious, y'all? I mean, they're not hanging out looking cool. They are ready. These men had fought in World War II. And came back home and rode on the back of the bus and went back to college to finish their college education. My wife said, if you can't speak without crying, why don't you just write it down, James? I'm trying, y'all. I have practiced this a lot, and I'm going to try not to cry, but whew. My beautiful mother, her name was Cleo Johnson. She was the prettiest girl at Kentucky State. And my father got a chance to get a date with her, and they fell in love. I called her cupcakes all of her life, and my father pledged Alpha Phi Alpha, and my mother pledged Sigma Gamma Rho. And my mother studied sociology, and she went on after she graduated to study at the University of Kentucky, and she got her master's degree. But I'm choked up because of the connection that they had and what they did. They didn't have opportunities to do internships with the commissioner, go to Alltech, or work at some big company. They had each other, and they went out and tried to change the world and make things better for other people. But they ended up getting married, and they had 5 beautiful children, and they were the custodians of Coleman Crest Farm from 1950 all the way up until my mother's death in 2002. I also have, that's a picture of my father when he was the secretary of the Future Farmers of America. Look at those brothers up there. I mean, if they had a tenth of the opportunity that we have today, they would all be richer than Warren Buffett. We have no excuses, y'all. I want to encourage my partners here from Kentucky State, let's please have an attitude of no excuses. Please, let's don't use any excuses for anything that we didn't do, because we have no excuses from what they went through and what they did with nothing. And they didn't go around fighting and being mad. They focused on seizing the moment and taking care of their families and taking care of their communities. This is a picture of my father the night before my parents were married in 1950, February the 3rd, and this is a picture of his brothers and sisters. Why do I show you this? Is that his two sisters, Ada and Anna, they also are graduates of Kentucky State University. And they went on to be teachers. Anna went up to Cincinnati to be a teacher in the public school system, and Ada went to Richmond, Virginia, where she became a powerful principal of the public schools in Richmond. Clifton there that's laughing, he went on to Morehouse College. And the other brother that had his hand up there, let me see here. It's going to be too fast, y'all. Are we okay? Whew. Look, they're getting up. My ancestors are shouting, y'all. Can y'all help me to get this back up? The back room got shook up on this, y'all. It's intense, y'all. I got a few slides that are going to be some more fun and get through this emotional stuff. But the one that's got his hand in the pocket looks like Sadat. That's my Uncle Stanford. He went to Lincoln University. And then Uncle Jim up there in the front and Uncle Ben, they didn't go to college, but they were very sustainable and very successful. I say this because black people from the late 1800s, when we had this Land Act and got our freedom, all the way up until 1950, we were making money. We were raising children. We didn't have access to anything, but we were doing so much. I really think a lot about what were they doing and how did they get so much? From when my great-grandfather purchased our farm in 1888 all the way up until just 1920, African Americans had purchased 14 million acres of farmland in the United States, which represented 15% of the farmland. The next generation, you're looking at like the Kennedy family. I mean, this is a Kennedy picture. Pride. And that's what Kentucky State is all about, and that's what we've got to help our youngsters to get back to having pride and leaving this university, taking over and running the world and changing lives. I want to shift now to, I thought a lot about Kentucky State, and I wanted to share with you partly the celebration, but I also want to put the challenge on Kentucky State, our administrators here today, and I want to be your partner on making this happen. We need you. This is not jive. Kids can't afford to go to college anymore. They're starting to think about other things that they are trying to do. Parents don't have the money. Our country's going through a lot of change. We can't always rely on government. Anything can shift. You're talking about a government funding, that grant could be gone at a moment's notice. With just a shift in policy, we've got a $27 trillion deficit in the federal government. It would not be a problem to start reducing funding for land grant institutions, black and white. That's just the bottom line. So we've really got to pay attention to who are our customers. Why are we doing this? Why are we here? And why are we training all these wonderful souls that come to Kentucky State? It really is to get out of here and serve our customers. The first type of customer that Kentucky State has is a corporate client. You can look at that as like all tech. The second type of customer could be a public entity, like, for instance, Ryan Quarles, who's the commissioner of the Kentucky Department of Agriculture. The third type could be a farmer. We need our kids that come through Kentucky State, whether they're in agriculture or not, sis, please, they need a summer, the first summer, work for Jim Coleman. I'm going to show you the benefits of that in just a moment. Okay? He's a genius. And he wasn't Grant last year. He's Grant now. He's a different Grant. Okay? The second customer that I want them to work for is the commissioner of the Department of Agriculture. That's the center of policy. It is unacceptable for us not to have, going forward, y'all didn't know this until today, but the new policy from Jim Coleman, Dr. Chavous, is every summer I want 3 Kentucky State students to work for the Commissioner of Agriculture. I will do anything you need me to do to make that happen. I don't want any excuses, Doc. We cannot have it to where the commissioner has 12 interns and it looks like 1950, and that's our fault. It's not his fault. It is not his fault. It is not Ryan Quarles' fault. We are in an age right now where when I saw that, I texted him and he responded within about 30 seconds. That's power right there. He said, I have talked to Kentucky State and I have talked to UK countless times. I have talked to Ashley Smith. I've tried to talk to everybody to please help me to diversify my staff. I said, for as long as I live, Ryan, you will have a diverse staff going forward. For until my head is cold, Kentucky State's going to send you 3, UK's going to send you 3, and Ashley Smith's going to send you 5. You will not have to worry about having 12 interns that all look alike and no representation from African Americans or Latin or Asians. We are not in 1950, and we have got to own that. Third is we've got corporations that need talent. And they don't need talent just to say, we're diverse, we're cool, we've got to comply with rules. It ain't about that. It's about making money and being effective and building market share. And they need smart people to help them to come in and make things happen. So we need an experience. The first summer, you come here to Kentucky State, you're a freshman. That summer, you work on a farm. We only got 50,000 of them in Kentucky that need all of them. They need all 2,300 of your students. They need them, and your students need the farm. We don't need to have one graduate from Kentucky State to graduate and say, I ain't never been to a farm. That's ridiculous. That's like graduating and not knowing the Pledge of Allegiance. It's ridiculous. We need, after they come back, do their sophomore year, that sophomore summer, they need to work for Ryan Quarles. Whether he's commissioner, governor, wherever he is, we need him to get them an internship and where they get exposure and have lifetime relationships. If my father had a chance to graduate from Kentucky State and to have worked for the commissioner, I would have beat Obama. I would have been the first president of the United States. It's an insult to my parents for my babies here at Kentucky State not to be working at KDA this summer. It drives me crazy. And I'm trying to be nice, sis. I'm trying to be nice, but I ain't accepting no excuses. There are no excuses, and it's not Ryan's fault. Then after they do their sophomore, they work for Ryan, then they come back, they do their junior year, and that summer, then they work for a corporation somewhere here in the central area. And I will help to hook that up, okay? I ain't afraid of talking to people. I've been talking to all my life, my mom and daddy that graduated from Kentucky State. They never accepted, no. They never, I wouldn't be here if they did. I will help y'all to call anybody to get it done for these kids, okay? When they go through these 3 different sectors, they will come out of here and they will be the hottest people graduating from any university on the planet. And that will drive up the amount of contributions and support we need. We don't need to be groveling to all these government entities. Here are the customer's needs. The customer's needs are simple. They need talent from Kentucky State, world-class talent, smart. And that doesn't always mean your IQ is off the chart. That just means you are open to learning and growing, that you will show up to work on time, that you will comply to rules, that you will critically think, that you will act like it's your money when you're working there and you won't waste money. Okay, you're going to be mature. You're going to say, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, and be good. Revenue, investment, low-cost production. They need to be efficient, just like Kentucky State. They need to be efficient. They want happy customers. They need brand recognition. They need to have goodwill in the market. We're like, oh, yeah, Ryan did that. Oh, yeah, the Lyons family, they donated XYZ. They need that. They want to be market leaders, number one. And they need strategic vendor relationships. What does Kentucky State need? World-class talent. That does not mean we accept everybody that applies. I would like for our acceptance rate to be at 35%, where people are begging to get in here. We can do that. I'm going to show you 2 other universities that don't have the size of our enrollment, that are historically black colleges, that have a lower acceptance rate. They are not groveling and begging people to come here to work, come in here to school. We need research and extension services. The business needs that we have are that we need to have a reputation of producing world-class talent. It's just like first school that you would think of for a Harvard a graduate from law school would be Harvard. That's the bottom line. We need to have it to where if you are looking for somebody that can run a farm, that can run an agriculture company, that can know how to manage your resources for your state government, you better, you went to, somebody looking at the resume, you went to Kentucky State? You went to Kentucky State? You went to Kentucky State? Like they're blown away. We need customers and investors, the 3 that I just mentioned. We need revenue, whether it's tuition, whether it's through alumni, whether it's through grants, whether it's through private grants, we need revenue. And we lastly need a multi-million-dollar endowment. We're going to make that happen, sis, before I die. After I go away, I hope it gets to $1 billion one day, but I'm going to work real hard to get it to triple digits, okay? And the reason I'm not saying this just smoking. There are some universities out there that don't have Cleo and Sam and Whitney Young graduates. Let's take a look at the few. Dillard University. Small little university down in New Orleans. They ain't Kentucky State. I don't know anybody that graduated from there. I'm not saying this out of arrogance, but I don't know any Whitney Youngs or Cleo Johnsons or Sam Colemans that came up out of Dillard. And it's a good school. Look at what they're doing. Their tuition $17,000, ours is $7,000. I look at this stuff because I'm a businessman. This university is not an academic institution. It's a business, and we got to operate like a business. Okay? Their acceptance rate is 65%. We're at 84. We're groveling and taking everybody. Okay? Look at the pool, 5,700 graduates. Our pool is smaller from what we accept from. They currently have an enrollment of 1,200 students. We've got nearly 2,300. They're at 49, nearly 50% of the people they bring into their university graduate. We're not there yet. But the big one that is the indicator, if you're a company out here, a public company, what's your market cap? Like Apple Computer's $1 trillion company, and everybody wants to invest in that kind of company because everybody's putting money in it, and that means that they're doing something that other people are not doing. For the university segment, that means something's going on for you to have $100 million at a historically black college. $92 million. Brothers and sisters, when you got that kind of money in an investment, you can pull down 5% in perpetuity, brother, and it ain't never going away. And guess what? You got more than enough money. If whoever's president says we getting rid of the money for land grants or historically black colleges, who cares? They got enough money to take care of everybody. Okay? Just on that 5%, and it will never go away because the average fund manager out there can beat the market, and we'll still have enough in there where that principle will never go away. We got to get there, sis. We got to get there. This is Dillard. This ain't Kentucky State. Virginia Union. Where's the camera? My pastor in New York, his name is Dr. William Franklin Richardson. Rev, I know you watching. Will told you this is your slide. He's the chairman of Virginia Union. Okay, Rev lives in New York, but he's managing Virginia Union, which is in Richmond. And look at the endowment they got, $32.6 million. Look at how many kids they've got going, 1,500, sis. We got 2,300. Look at what they're charging to get in, $10,000. Take it or leave it. 75%, not 84. Okay? I know when Rev sees this, he's going to say, I don't know, why ain't we doing as well as Dillard? Because he's very competitive. Okay? But Virginia Union has enough money right now. If they got cut off from the government, which they don't get land grant, they ain't going to Washington like you to get big grant money. They do it the old-fashioned way. If we eat what we kill. And if we ain't got no money in the bank, we're going to shut down. That's the way Rev and them operate. That's Rev's method. Okay? Rev ain't got no welfare. Rev's operating on, we got to do a good enough job, produce a good enough product to get somebody to put some money in the bank for us where we can take care of these children. And look at our baby right here at Kentucky State, 18 million. And we got to change that. I'm not up here preaching. I'm going to help. I am going to help, okay? In a lot of ways, I am going to help. Y'all going to love me and hate me. Because I'm going to bring resources, but we're going to get things done. Y'all say, I love Jim Coleman, and I hate him too. He pushes us too hard. He expects us to be better than Dillard. Look at this. We're charging $7,700. 84%. Come on in, y'all. 3,300, a smaller pool, meaning we're desperate. We ain't desperate. My mother and father went here, and Whitney Young did too. We don't need to be desperate. Our brand is stellar. 30% graduation rate, unacceptable. Now, these are facts from Data USA, y'all. This is, if it's wrong, then tell me, but this is what y'all reported to the Census Bureau. So if it's wrong, that's y'all's fault, because this is what y'all told the Census Bureau of the United States government, okay? Let's move on to what's going to be the trick here. Here is the poison, not the poison pill, what do you call it, when it's silver bullet or whatever it's called, the fix. Here's the fix. The fix is producing hot talent that takes care of those three customers. And I'm going to tell you why I know this is important is because I'm one of your customers, and I've experienced of what it's like to have a young student that's worked for me this past summer that prevented me from being a mess, that stopped me from being broke and doing stupid stuff. His name is Grant Wallace. These are the 21st century job skills that I've helped Grant to develop and that the University of Kentucky has helped him develop. He's standing right, here he is, right, stand up, and just stand up for a second so you all know who he is while I'm talking. We want those 2,300 kids that we have at Kentucky State Sis to be all like this. Let me take you through why. I want them all to have these skills because everybody will want them in the market if we have that. Everybody. Critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, technology literacy, flexibility, initiative, productivity. It's not saying you got to have it day one, but over 4 years, you're coming up out of here, you're the master at it. You can outcompete somebody at Yale, Stanford, and Penn all together. Critical thinking. I'm going to show you what he did right here. He just literally, Grant helped me to develop our business plan. And I didn't even know how we were going to do it, but we've got 60 rows, 120 feet each that we're growing, and we're growing tomatoes, cabbage, we've got okra, we've got beets, we've got chard, green beans. I told him to get into this Johnny's Guide and tell me how much that order is going to be before we put the order in. He literally went in here where it tells you how many seeds are in each packet, how much you'll need for each foot, how far to separate them from, what the germination rate is, and came up with this, okay? I called it in. Grant told me it's going to be $453. It came out to be $447. That's critical thinking. If any of our kids graduate or go to a summer job and they're able to just do this, I told Doc Bernard, if any of our kids at Kentucky State are able to do this, sister, I'm telling you right now, it's $15,000 more than the average graduate. Just that alone. Just that alone. I need it. Ryan needs it. Lyons needs it. Okay? All of us need this. We laid out our plan. Grant helped me with this. Helped me to get certified organic. We laid out our rows to find out how we're going to do it so that we're productive. We're going to grow sunflowers, half acre. I love sunflowers because they suck all the carbon out of the sky, makes the soil more fertile, according to Grant. Secondly, the pollinators love it, which means we'll have more fertilization of our crops, which means instead of 50 pods per seed for okra, I'll get 100 with the same plant. And the third that I love most is we're going to sell these flowers. I've got 10,000 of them growing, $4 a flower at the Hamburg Farmers Market. That's $40,000 in gross. Okay? That comes from somebody who helped me to think. Okay? Here's the other thing, and I've shown this to a lot of other big farms. Big racehorse farms can't believe this. A calendar of when all this stuff is going to happen so that we can manage our labor expenses, so that we can make commitments to our customers of when we will be ready to be able to deliver for them. Ashley looked at this about 2 months ago, and she went out to our farm yesterday and had her hand right out. Where's my kale? You said it was going to be ready on this date. Where's my kale? Where's my kale? She was not playing. Customers are expecting this. Look at this right here. Demonstrating competence to ag extension agents. Y'all know these people? They got masters and PhDs, but look at who they're listening to. Look at who they're listening to. I want that to be Kentucky State students, y'all, coming out to my farm and leading a tour and explaining agriculture to ag extension agents. They're asking grant questions. The mayor of Lexington and the city council sitting up in there like he's having a press conference. We have got to have our kids, when somebody asks them a question, I want them talking just like Grant. Excuse me, Mayor, here's how this, pollination, Mayor, and here's how this works. Pollination works like this, Mayor Gordon, and here's how we're going to do this. We've got, look at Mayor Gordon, look at him. Look at the council looking at him talking. Servant leadership. We talk a big game, but go out and help the world. Go out and help the world. Well, then let's teach them what that means. Kids love Grant. They look up to him. I had two young ladies yesterday. I said, what do y'all think of Grant? He's smart. These kids love him. And he's learning a lot about being a servant, not arrogant. He's learning that it's not about him. It's about helping other people to get to where they are and helping them to be the best they can be. It ain't about you, Grant. I agree. I'm getting them ready. This is what's going to happen. When your babies come here, this is what they're don't worry, baby. Don't worry. It's going to be plenty of money, and it's going to be free. Presentation skills. Look at him. Is that confidence? Grant wasn't like this a year ago. He thinks he was, but it was not. Grant's hair was down to his back. He looks like he's working like a volunteer for Rand Paul now. Look at his haircut. I took Grant with me to Community Trust Bank to do one of my loans, and he didn't have his hair cut. He came out and he said, I'm ashamed of myself. I said, what's wrong? He said, I didn't know we were going to meet with the president. I said, Grant, I told you that. The next day, Grant came back with a haircut. I didn't have to tell him that. I did not have to tell him that, brother. That's exposure. He made that decision on his, that's called growing up on his own. Look at the kids. Look at this kid. His mother sent us an email that night. Can he work all summer for y'all? He's a statistician, a genius. This kid is as smart as Einstein and just connected with Grant. Teased every day, bullied at school, but finally has found somebody that can appreciate him and put him to work. This is more of Locust Trace kids. I'm going to put all them at Locust Trace. If y'all don't help me, I'm going to get Locust Trace and them want to come out and help me. Okay? You see what I can do for these brothers and sisters here? It's called Colemanization. Grant has been Colemanized. Okay? Grant's smart, but I have Colemanized him. He wasn't doing this a year ago. Grant has been Colemanized. What does Colemanized mean? It means I think you can do anything. This is an adult-adult relationship. I don't have kids, and I'm not going to be a parent. You're expected to show up on time, and you're expected to do your doggone job, Grant. Okay, you're expected to think. You are the manager. You ain't no kid. You are not a kid. And you need to manage these kids. Look at him. A leader got people following him. 20 years old. This is a group came out from Kentucky League of Cities. I'm saying this because this is what I want for 2,300 souls. Not for y'all, but on behalf of my parents. My mother would be, with what I've got and what I've done in my life, she would be insulted if I didn't help. We can do this together. I want y'all students to be doing that. I want Kentucky State students to be doing this. Would that be amazing? Look at this. Would that be amazing if I sent you a picture of the intern working at Coleman Crest, entertaining the Kentucky cities? They had a corporate retreat at our farm, and Grant's leading the tour. I'm telling you right now, wherever he goes, if Grant just took these pictures and told what he was saying, anybody in this world would hire him. And that's from Beijing to Cuba to Russia. But Putin would hire Grant. Anybody would hire Grant. Customer relationship. That you know how to deal with customers, that you can count. Grant was instrumental in helping me to come up with my pricing strategy. Last year we sold tomatoes for $3 a pound. Because of inflation and we're getting ready to go organic, $5 a pound, and we're getting it. And I'm mad that because the customers are not challenging me, I get mad because I think I should have said 7. Grant, you went too low. I'm mad at him on that part. Lexington Country Club. When I went in there, my parents, I came out, it was raining outside. It was my parents crying. They could not have ever gone in Lexington Country Club when they were here. And now their son is going up in there talking about expensive produce. Dudley's, the most expensive restaurant in Lexington. Look at Grant up in there. Explaining. I'd like later on, you're going to have to explain this. I get him ready. Critchfield's. That's our biggest retail customer. They buy $300 and $400, $500 at a time. And then our largest customer is Ramsey's Dine. Look, Grant invited him to come out because he wants to buy our okra. Grant brought him out and explained and walked him through the fields. Think about it. I'm just only saying this. I ain't just bragging about Grant. I'm talking about how do we put our kids in this situation, brother. I'm going to hold you accountable. I see you behind that mask. I remember your face. I remember. Okay. All right. I know that they will be able to do anything they want. Just don't working for me one summer. I know that. They would. They'll be at least as rich as me. That's $1 million. Couple million, okay? They'll be wealthy. They ain't gonna be hurting. This is the meeting that we had with Tony to talk about organic certification. I did not understand most of what he and Tony were even talking about. It was like, shay, booyah, shay, meow. I didn't know what they were talking about. But thank God I had Grant to help me, and now I'm getting ready to go organic, y'all. Okay? That's kicking. That raises the value of my products and the valuation of my farm. Managing. Grant told me the other day, a few people came over that work at a beautiful company called Toyota. They said, Grant, man, you should work over there. It's like $20 an hour. Grant said, I want to be a manager. You know how many kids that are his age, they're saying, if somebody gave them $2 more an hour, I'm going to go there. I ain't going to work for Jim Coleman. Hell, he can't pay. Jim Coleman only paid $15. I'm going to work at Toyota. I'm going to make $19. Grant's like, I want to be a manager. And they ain't going to get, Grant ain't going to do this on the assembly line at Toyota. Grant's smart enough to know he ain't thinking about today. Grant's thinking about where am I going to be 10, 15 years from now, which is CEO over there at Altech or somewhere, or Commissioner of Agriculture, telling everybody what to do, bossing. Okay, these are 2 students from UK. He was bossing them. They ran up to me. He's bossing. He just threatened he's going to fire us. I said, hold it. Jakeithia, he's the boss. I ain't going to overturn any decision he makes. If he fires you, it's over with. Just do your job. Lewis Jones, look at Lewis. What do you expect me to do? I can't manage Lewis. He's getting more out of Lewis than he fired this kid. And those are the 2 that he likes. They're the two McCool family right across the road, and they love Grant, and they work so hard, and they love learning. He can answer any question they have about nature, but at the same time, he gets them to pull weeds. The little one said, Dad, I want my own account, and I want to own my own farm one day. She said that. Y'all almost broke down crying when she said that because of what she's learning from Grant. She says, Dad, I want my own account, and I want to have my own farm one day. 9 years old. You know, most of us would be saying, baby, you got enough time. Don't worry. You got plenty of time to make it. No, you don't. My wife died when she was 58, okay? That's 20. We get 27,000 days to live. She got 20,000. We don't know how much time we get. We ain't got no time to waste. We don't have time. I'm wrapping it up right here. Whew. This is my vision for Kentucky State. I'm riding or dying. I haven't told y'all this. This is one little fun story I haven't told you, unless you may already know. I'm running for office. Mm-hmm. That's it. Sister's like happy. You ain't going to be happy. Because you know what? I got a good chance of winning. And I'm going to be in the majority. I'm going to be setting the agenda. And the first question I already asked the speaker is, put me on the committee of the one that's in charge of money for Kentucky State, because I'm the chairman. I'm going to be the chairman, and we're going to do this. I'm going to be the chairman. When I win in November, I'm the chairman. And we are going to go from here on this 18.2 to 92. We are going to. We're going to go after top talent that can go out and change the world. We're going to bring in the next commissioners of agriculture, the next CEOs, the next multimillionaires that are going to be farmers, the next top people that know how to go out to a farm instead of talking about, you want $4,000, we can get you a reimbursement up. Forget that. How about making $10,000 in profit an acre? And stop doing this stupid stuff and let me show you how to do this. That's what we need as farmers, black and white. We need new ideas on how to make money. We don't need subsidies. We need to make money and get out of debt and stop committing suicide and having heart attacks. All right, here's where we are right now, $7,700 on tuition, acceptance rate, begging and groveling, taking everybody. 18, look at what that's getting us on the bank. I told Will and his last night, I said, tell your dad, Rev, we are going to at least get to Virginia Union standard by 2027. Rev, we are going to get to at least Virginia Union by 2027 with $32 million in the bank. Look at the graduates that they have. Maybe I thought that was wrong. 84, they got less students than they're doing 150 graduates. All the way up to Dillard University that hardly nobody knows, not like Kentucky State. 92 million in the bank, 160. 50% of their graduates are graduating, and 65% acceptance rate. With a smaller pool that they select from. Look, I'm not here to put pressure on you. I'm here as a partner. And whether if I make millions or more for the rest of my life, or whether if I become an elected official where I get access to more money and more power and more access to all three of those types of customers, I'm whole hog on Kentucky State. Not for y'all, but for my parents. I wouldn't even exist without Kentucky State. And we can do better. And we are going to do better. God bless my mother and father. God bless Whitney Young. And God bless Kentucky State University. Amen. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. Let's give Mr. Coleman another hand. I can say one thing, that's a role model. Okay, our next speaker, Ms. Ashley Smith with Black Soul. Let's give Ms. Smith our undivided attention.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Coleman. Let's give it up for Mr. Coleman one more time. Thank you, Mr. Chavous. Thank you to Tiffany, the entire staff of Community Farm Alliance. I'm really excited to be here today to talk a little bit about the behind the scenes of that entire presentation of what you see Mr. Coleman accomplish on his farm, in addition to the Travis Cleaver's on the cover of the acknowledgement, the Tatum Lewises, the Susan Millers, how as Black Soil, as you hopefully have been able to stop by our table, I brought it into the room, so you feel free to come up close and personal during our presentation today and get some hands-on experience with the products, the farmers, the chefs, and the makers that we work with. 5 years ago, this August, we celebrate our 5-year anniversary this August. Here on our cover of the presentation is Chef Anitra Polk. She is the first Black woman chef to have her own standing mini restaurant in the dining hall at the University of Kentucky. Black Soil was extremely influential and participated in the negotiations that helped Chef Anitra get her foot into the door, make the intro, and close that deal for her. You see one of our student interns from UK, Miss Cameron Stripling, who was a graduate this May from the University of Kentucky College of Ag with a degree in horticulture. She is pictured here working in one of the greenhouses that we worked in the summer of 2020. So we have a shared vision. If you don't know what Black Soil does, I'm gonna break it down really, really deliberately, because it's really important for us to embrace this vision and this mission that affects all of us. We have a shared, we're driven by our mission to reconnect Black Kentuckians to their heritage and legacy in agriculture. It is extremely difficult to celebrate Juneteenth without speaking about the Black farmer. We talk about their heritage and the legacy that they have in agriculture. And powered by that focus, powered by the leadership of Black farmers, we believe that all Kentuckians across the Commonwealth can enjoy local food all year round. And so in the beginning, we're a co-founded organization. My co-founder is Trevor Claiborne, and he works here at the Kentucky State University in the extension program. And so Trevor was very poignant in our early days and also contributed to the name of our organization. And in May of 2018, I officially organized the business and began the day-to-day operations. And so since then, I've served as the COO and now the Chief Executive Officer, focusing on strategic partnerships, much like the Community Farm Alliance work that we've started in 2020, where we brought to the table, over the relationships that we developed since 2017, the ability to steward through our event planning and management, that grant writing and the development of funds and capacity on Kentucky Black farms. And then in 2018, you probably saw me June and all the way until January of 2019, I waddled around farms and off-season workshops, and we welcomed Trevor Jr. and Caroline, the next generation of Black Soil. And so when you think about, again, the beginnings of our work, it's really based on many, many foundational historical references, data points, and statistics. And obviously, we always have to remind ourselves of why we, as we've heard in reflection and review today, of why we celebrate Juneteenth. And 8th of August is the time in which here in the state of Kentucky, across the Commonwealth, the western part of the state, northern part of Tennessee and East Tennessee, 8th of August is a huge opportunity to celebrate the news of emancipation coming to the state of Kentucky. And so during these times, we talk about during this presentation that we're bonded in the soil. Farming is the occupation, the oldest occupation African Americans have held in this country. And so through their strength, their innovation, their creativity, in our opinion at Black Soil, it's focusing on bringing back that level of respect, expertise, and dignity that was used in creating the land-grant universities, where formerly enslaved sharecroppers, tenant farmers would teach the transitioning economy of the deep American South post-Civil War to those new and beginning white farmers on how to farm. That expertise was cultivated and extracted through sharecropping. And so continuing to toil the land yet not own the land is a constant and persistent struggle, as you see through American slavery, sharecropping, segregation, where the Great Migration led millions of African Americans to flee the Deep South, rural communities for metropolitan areas in search of upward mobility, better education, better employment attainment. And so as you looked at segregation, though the upward mobility of leaving the Deep South, many of these former Southern Americans, as they traveled into metropolitan meccas of California, the East Coast, the North, they were faced with redlining, they were faced with Jim Crow segregation that reduced their ability to own land, to own property, to have housing, to access loans, and live in deteriorating communities. And so what does that have to do with black farmers? Well, as more and more black farmers gave up their land in pursuit of this upward mobility, you see greater food deserts and decay of urban communities faced by urban renewal and revitalization. And so as the decrease of black land ownership and the black farmer representation, you see an increase of food deserts, food insecurity, malnourishment, poverty, generational poverty, mass incarceration. Crack cocaine came through in the 80s, and that's not listed here, but in that era, it wiped out the ability to regenerate economic prosperity within black communities, which then further suppressed the opportunity for us to have land ownership. And so through policy, as you've heard us speak about today, the ability to be locked up for small amounts of marijuana have completely devastated black communities and their ability to have upward mobility, participation in agriculture. And so over the past 5 years, you've seen through our work at Black Soil a conversation that is generating a response to so many problems that we've found through our research. So we utilize the USDA Farm Census. And this farm census allowed us, alongside of Feeding America statistics, statistics that we found through cooperative extension, have allowed us to be able to really pinpoint the need of black soil through the different vision and mission fulfilling programs, services, and products that we offer. And so as we see across the past 5 years, a regeneration of a conversation of young, new and beginning farmers, many of them based in Louisville. The West Louisville community is an inspiring and an exciting opportunity to see those who have been so separated through redlining, segregation, mass incarceration from the ability to own land in their urban communities come forward as young, new and beginning farmers using high tunnels, using raised beds, being farmers market managers. And so as we see an aging farm population, you're also seeing a correlation, an increase of interest, and that's through education and outreach initiatives. You see land loss is a leading cause of fracture within black relationships, within our relationships with our families, through not being able to hold on to our taxes through clean titles and deeds, air property. We're losing 30,000 acres of land every year. And attorney Jill Hirschhorn with Farms has been an influential and notable mentor of our work as well. And so what we've worked across the industry and sector here in Kentucky through Black Soil is focusing on creating the endpoint. Before the farmer puts the seed in the ground, we are working diligently to find a multitude of sales channels, marketing channels for them to land their products in. And so we have also a saying that really goes to say, if Mother Nature can't see who puts the seed in the ground, then why do we have such enormous disparities in agriculture? And that really is coming down to this very last talking point here. So if we're putting the same types of seeds in the ground, working the same types of soil, we might practice diversified growing techniques and methods. Why do we have our black farm products being valued at a little over $10 million compared to their white counterparts and their product valuation at over $5 billion? And again, that's coming from the USDA Farm Census, because I knew when we were going to start talking about black farmers here in the state of Kentucky, the first knee-jerk reaction is, what about Eastern Kentucky farmers? You can have the conversation with both existing at the same time, because each of us are sitting here listening to these presentations today, inhaling and exhaling. And if I hold my breath, it does not allow your lungs to exhale and expand any more broadly, strongly, or more effectively. So we can have a conversation about black farmers and their living conditions, the social barriers in which they face on a day-to-day basis, as well as understand and be compassionate and empathetic to those producers who reside within our eastern regions of the state. And so that's something that we've made very clear through working across geographies and people types. So when we think about building up that product valuation, one, if you put the seed in the ground, you have nowhere to put it, how in the world will your consumer learn about that? So in the very beginning, as an industry outsider, I was recruited from working at the Lyric Theater and Cultural Arts Center in Lexington, Kentucky. Check. Okay. In 2015, I started working at the Lyric. Long story short, I built our portfolio from $840 annually in donations to nearly $300,000 in donations by the time that I left in June of 2017. So one, I bring the skill set of development. And over our time of Black Soil, we've worked very diligently in bringing up not only a solution-based program for education and outreach, but we focus on building the infrastructure by allowing you to place yourself in relationship directly with a Black farmer, chef, or maker. And so we've worked diligently as well to improve the quality of life of Kentucky's African American community. And so I hope you see on our product table here some very familiar household names that you have come in contact with through other Black Soil, our programs, services, our products. And so obviously if the farmer isn't putting the seed in the ground, like we'll share a little bit more about the farmers that we work with, they're not able to then sell their products to culinary artists who then create farm-to-table dinners and are allowing us to then create opportunities for makers to then vend their products within those programs. And so again, our mission is to reconnect Black Kentuckians to their heritage and legacy in agriculture. And our vision is to increase the 1.4% of Kentucky Black farmers, growers, and producers market share. And again, we've practiced that and have a track record of success over the past 5 years. And so when we started, I'll talk a little bit about our founding farmers, Andre Barber, Barber's Farm, and Mr. Tarangel, formerly of Kentucky State University. They gave me a chance when so many others thought it was funny that we wanted to work with Black farmers. We came to Kentucky State in the very beginning, and I pitched to the administrator at the time, and they thought it was absolutely hilarious. And they pledged their support after we got 50 people at an event. And now, mind you, when Andre gave us the 4 dates, September 17th, we didn't sell one ticket, Miss Miller. But Ms. Miller was on our list of 200 individuals who I deliberately sent individual email invites to attend a farm tour at Andre Barber's Farm in Canmore, Kentucky, where they were then going to come take a farm tour led by Andre. Anwar participated. Sammy was there, the girls were there, and they took us around their farm. They had pride swelling from chest to chest, talking about how 4 of the 7 siblings had returned to farming. And then we received a presentation, which then connected the work of Black Soil to Extension. Because in no way, shape, or form have we ever been competition or looked at Extension as competition. Unfortunately, that has been the relationship. But we want to participate as collaborators and partnership, because where you end, we begin. And when you begin, we end. And so Mr. Tarangel would offer opportunities for individuals to become connected with Extension, learn the purpose of it, and then sign up for greater relationship in receiving newsletters, emails, so on and so forth. But we didn't sell one ticket to our September 17th, 2017 farm tour. And so again, I went back to the drawing board and I made a plea for what I believed was a crisis of need, of accessibility, of opportunity that was void, yet it was so close for Black farmers to develop consistent audiences who would understand the process of how the product is raised, grown, yielded, harvested, and tended, and then how it then makes its way to your shelves. That disconnect was we used events as the vehicle. And so we continued that practice. We then toured Madison County. We met Mrs. Miller in November of 2017. We had a farm tour on your farm in October of 2018. We've traveled to Scott County with Mr. Ed Thompson, Logan County with Dr. Nancy Dawson, Bourbon County with Mrs. Carmela Connor. And I name all of these individuals because they gave us a chance. And they believed in the work that we were doing when we were strapping it, when I was ordering, all of my paycheck, because I was working a full-time job. And I felt the need and a call to do this work full-time in December of 2019. And we all kind of know how that story goes. In March of 2020, I found myself absolutely devastated because I'd worked myself for 3 years in these services over and over and over and over again. So we, for example, event planning and management. I met Mr. Coleman in 2018, and before he even stepped foot as a resident, coming back to Kentucky, leaving New York, we had a plan in place, and we have practiced that plan. We worked on the back end in creating event planning and management opportunities for him to generate revenue and income for his farm, a diversified farm that he's building up his agritourism, land-based wealth strategies. So we see, in addition to Coleman Crest, Green Landing, the old schoolhouse, these hamlet-based operations where a new young and beginning farmer in James Lavelle Green and Cadentown is burning up the agritourism. He's burning up agriculture. When I speak to James via text, we have sourced from Green Landing for our Soul Feast Week. It's a 10-day Black food and restaurant week. I spoke about it earlier. But the land-based wealth strategy is, again, before you put the seed in the ground, how are you connecting yourself to elevating your product placement, your name, your brand? Agritourism, cultural tourism, as we know, the beloved gem of Dr. Nancy Dawson and her connection with Kentucky State, working with the historic Cherokee State Park and the Friends of. And so we continued on and on and on for those first 3 years. And we've diversified in sourcing now, I think, 8 farm-to-table restaurants across the state. Working in historic interpretation, where we've been an award-winning organization with the Kentucky Historical Society for our work at Ashland, the Henry Clay Estate. And so we're deeply fostered and rooted in partnership. And so through the partners, it not only allows us to draw down grant funds, where we then go out and receive requests from farmers who are wanting to build high tunnels, farmers who are in an emergency and need a small cash flow grant. We're able to utilize farm credits and ag credits of the industry in helping us improve and build capacity. And so we are Kentucky proud and have worked closely with Commissioner Quarles. And yes, we absolutely believe in building a strong pipeline. And since March of this year, we've really worked diligently in continuing our relationships in the game changers. So in 2020, heading into that year, I was a 5-figure business. And been able to build my business to a 6-figure business within a year through institutional sales. And as a Black woman-owned business, those are the game-changing institutional steps that will allow us to fortify and sustain ourselves within this industry. We are participating in a $1 trillion industry. And even if we represent 1.4%, what is 1.4% of multi-trillions of dollars? The market share is there. You just have to position yourself with the confidence of what your product brings to the table and what makes it unique. So we've worked with institutions like UK, where we first headed into the classroom and we spoke to their students. We built relationships with professors, departments. We've spoken at conferences, symposiums, and that allowed us for 3 years to practice that trust building in relationship. So in 2020, when we launched our CSA program with 59 families, we were poised and ready to take that next step. And so when we think about over the past 5 years, I've worked with Travis Cleaver since 2017. I met Travis when he came to speak for an off-season workshop where we'd bring the rural-based farmer into the urban community, and they pitched what their either CSA program is. Ms. Miller calls hers a nutrition box. And we talk about, one, who are you as the farmer? What makes you different? Because even though we all are identifying as Black farmers, you've heard today so many different representations of experience, of the familial influence, as well as their positioning within the market. Are you a new and beginning? Are you an emerging? Are you someone who's been doing this your whole life? So as you know, Travis Cleaver, if you've not seen his face, this is the picture on the cover of the acknowledgement. Susan Miller as well, Kenya Abraham, these small farmers of the year we are so honored to work and partner with. The Thomas family, Chris and Mackenzie. I text Mackenzie probably more than my family. She and I and Chris are consistently texting back and forth, placing orders for eggs. We source whole chickens and chicken parts, as well as from Farmer Cleaver here, pork, chicken, beef. We are on a consistent drip, basically, of an order, a standing order. And so Chris and Mackenzie Thomas are also ag educators. Chris is one of 2 black ag educators in the entire state of Kentucky. So when we talk about the small sliver making a big impact, Mr. Thomas was one of the leaders that 34 youth from West Louisville through the Kappa League program traveled to LaRue County. And we went to LaRue County High School, and their peers led them through an extensive, detailed tour of an aquaponics, hydroponics, state-of-the-art greenhouse facility. And Mr. Thomas was able to talk about how he reinforces the youth as leaders, and he's teaching them how to advocate for themselves and how to get their products into their school district through sales. And so with each of these 2 farms here, there have been lifelong farmers, third generation continuing that legacy. And so we also have on the last icon is an example of the spectrum in which we work. So we talked a little bit about farmers market and farmers market managers. Leticia Marshall, coming out of Jefferson County, she and I met in 2020, and she had the desire of buying this beautiful, expansive greenhouse facility and changing it into an urban garden where new, young, and beginning farmers were able to come start their operations. And obviously, at that point in time, we did not have $2.5 million to drop on this property, but she's been able to scale that vision within her Shively community of Louisville by starting her own farmers market. And you saw in Tiffany's slides earlier the beautiful microgreens in our picture. And so those are coming from Bear Fruit and Grow. She is a small urban homestead, but she produces a lot. Her main products are her microgreens, and she has a variety of types that she grows. And so again, if Mother Nature can't see who puts the seed in the ground, then why do we have such disparities in agriculture? So we've heard a lot about diversity and inclusion and equity, but is it really lived out? There are so many easy ways in which we can be socially diverse, we can be diverse in our events in which they're presenting, and being able to provide that investment and have an opportunity for equity and purchasing from Black-owned businesses and sourcing from Black-owned businesses, especially if we're speaking about economic development within the African American community. And so when we think about what does Black Soil do in relation to these end products that you see here. So first we start with the target audience. We start with our farmers because they represent 1.4%, and if they're not growing, then we don't have any bourbon. We don't have any Blue Estates herbal loose tea. If they're not creating pollinators, we don't have Being Together honey. We don't have inspiration for Black Soil scented candles, tobacco, shea butter, and mahogany. And we don't have stories like Mr. Coleman coming out of Cut the Crap and Close the Gap, right? And so when we think about starting with the farmer, we then move into the chef space, because in Lexington, Black chefs represent less than 1% market share. And so in 2018 at Blue Estates in Madison County, we launched our culinary artist track for our farm tours. So Andre Barber and his family actually cooked the farm-to-table dinners, our first 2 farm-to-table dinners down at Barber's Farm in Hart County. And then so we've added then another layer of investment and creating another cycle through for Black dollars to be able to move from one Black-owned business to the next. And as we continue to retain that dollar within our community, that builds up the ability to have fortified capacity, infrastructure, and you're doing it through community. You're not doing it alone. And so once we get these items off the farm, You know, we then bring it to our fulfillment center, because Lord knows I've had 3 different fulfillment centers in like 2 years. Long story short, always know who you're renting. Actually, ownership is always best, okay? And so even though we've had persistent struggles as a Black woman-owned business, we're still knocking down doors. We're still showing up every day. We're getting the job done. So we have a farmer's market every week on Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. We have now 250 families. We have families in Eastern Kentucky through our partnership with Appalachian Regional Healthcare. We have families in Louisville, and majority of them are Lexingtonians who we engage the Cleves Family Market product through their workplace voucher programs. A game changer for us as a Black agritourism company. Because again, if we don't have the market share and we can't get people to buy the product, then you're never gonna sustain yourself as a business, right, Mr. Coleman? He doesn't take any excuse or less than the best. And so we do a la carte services from like the celebrations like Soul Feast Week, Crave Food and Music Festival, where I can then have another channel where I produce the food performance stage to gather this talent, representation. They're cooking on stage, or we're sitting down with the CEO, Fawn Weaver of Uncle Nearest, who has a cocktail that's prepared with smoked peach bitters sourced by Black soil and garnished with a Green Landing strawberry. A multi-million-dollar CEO, a millionaire, multi-millionaire, was holding a Green Landing strawberry earlier this week. And that's the work that we do through building a relationship. So she's now said out of her mouth Green Landing. She's now said out of her mouth Daughter Southern. She said out of her mouth Black soil. And we're able to have these connections now with a regional partner who goes in and venture capitals Black and brown-led organizations. So I cultivate opportunity on a plane that we've never seen before, where we're working together, not working against each other. And so the prepared meals, we've worked with Food Chain over the pandemic and working with Chef Angelia Drake, Chef Anitra Polk. We've worked with Alfalfa, Daughter Southern, Jerk Lexington. And so all of these target markets, because we all know everyone has to eat, we have been able to develop different programs and reaching individuals. So healthy households through our CSA, local restaurants. So we did a whole like Wise Bird cider farm to table dinner where we would take again a Black chef using Black farm products, and we have a different distilled spirit cocktail pairing. And we were building experiences for individuals, institutions, again, healthcare, universities, municipalities, and care providers. And so when we think about sustaining an industry, not only do you need to educate those in school, but we need to have healthy children experiencing their lives 0 through 5 years old. And so we've worked with doulas, we've worked with midwives, we've worked with managed care organizations to reach our most vulnerable when they need that fresh seasonal produce, local meats and eggs the most. And so again, we work to connect producers like yourself in community. So the fact that Mr. Coleman and Mrs. Miller and Travis and Tiffany and Mrs. Green, they're networking and connecting outside of the work that we are doing with each other and in relationship to the work that we're doing with each other. So what they do best is grow, prepare, and make the products and the produce that we then say, busy mom of children who has to go from work straight to cooking or warming up a meal. We want to connect you with a ready-to-bake meal kit with a fresh salad and a spaghetti squash lasagna prepared by Chef Angelia Drake using all Black soil products. And so we want to make it easy. We want to make it your one-stop shop. And so that's why we took the leap of faith in getting a brick and mortar in 2020. And so during that time, pretty much from 2000 to 2022 early, I was working full-time. I was the main full-time employee with a portion of volunteers and part-time folks. And now we have 4 full-time employees and 3 part-time employees. We host interns from Center College, The Ohio State University, Kentucky State University as well, and UK. So when I think about our reach and how Andre and TJ, what you think about them, gave Trevor and myself at that time a chance. They didn't laugh at us. They've understood what the vision was. And their yes in allowing us to step onto their farm and be able to roll the dice and say, if we at least just get you on a farm and let you lay eyes on a black farmer, you will have a higher conversion rate of becoming a prospect to a consumer, an actual customer, a repeat customer. And so these farms have given us a chance time and time again, whether it's bringing groups from universities, conferences, symposiums out, being featured on KET, local NBC. We do media buys, so we run in advertisements for our farmers market and our farm tours. So we ran a media buy for Black Roots when we went to Farmer Tatum Lewis's farm just last Friday. We partnered with Central Kentucky Ag Credit on that, and so we'll be on farm again Friday, July 15th at Miller's Farm, where Mr. George and Mrs. Susan Miller are going to show us their homestead, which allows them to sustain their family, foster leadership in the local community, as well as envision what their life will be after they, complete their public jobs. So let's get in touch with each other. It's probably best to email me. I do not, I'm usually not at the fulfillment center to take an in-person call, but if you email me, I'd love to talk more with you, talk more about these products. There's a story behind each one of them, and I believe I'm right at my time. So I, again, thank you so much for the opportunity to share and get to partner with you in the future. Thank you, Mr. Chavous.
Thank you, Ms. Smith, for your presentation.
I'm going to do Vaughn's.
You want to do Vaughn?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Next, we're going to have Ms. Tiffany Belfield. She's going to do storytelling. And she's also with, Community Farm Alliance.
So real quick, we are wrapping up the day. Black farmers, before you guys leave out, okay? Before I go into the storytelling piece, we have two organizations that have been here today. One is Lichen. If you all have not heard of Lichen, it is an organization that we've been connected with. They do so much more work, but they are collecting interviews and comments in regards to farm credit and FSA. And then FAMU is online right now. Hello. They are giving stipends for a deeper dive on telling your story around USDA. This does not have to be a negative story, just your relationship with USDA. Both of these entities, along with the Federation for Southern Cooperatives, are working together to have official documented stories to help support the civil lawsuits and other initiatives that are happening along the United States as far as Black and brown agriculture. So if for any reason you're at home watching, if you want to be connected with these folks, please let me know. Carson, raise your hand. Carson is in the room. He is literally at everything that we do. He's been listening. He's been talking to farmers, and they have a table out in the back with more details on their initiatives around the storytelling piece. So, clicker, are you guys running that video? Okay, I'll just say real quick, pause it. Vaughn Barnes, sitting over here, he's in the hallway now. He is our fellow for the 2501, and he is capturing stories and putting them on a podcast called Blacker Berries. Some of us in the room have already been on this wonderful podcast. So this clip is just a beautiful 3-minute clip that doesn't even sum up all the work that Vaughn and all the relationships he's built just thus far in the past 4 months. But that's what the clip is. I'm not going to get back up and talk after the clip. Once the clip is over, it'll go back to K-State. But I urge you all, if you have a story to tell about Extension, USDA, FSA, NRCS. You know anybody with the story who has a loan or, you know, anything. It can literally be anything. Those are the stories that are going to help with this countersuit. And I've been blessed to be in the position to accept those stories and connect those stories to people like Lycan. So I will say that, and we will go on with Vaughn's video over Blackerberry's podcast. That's every other Friday.
Hello, I am Vaughn Barnes, the Communications Fellow of Community Farm Alliance, and on behalf of the rest of the staff, Kentucky State University, and Black Soil, I'd like to congratulate you to making it this far in the Juneteenth celebration, where we, or I, get to tell you guys about storytelling. What is Blackerberries? If you aren't familiar, I am the person that produced, directs, and edits the Blackerberries series under the Community Farm Alliance podcast. And what this series does is allows me to more or less interview you or talk to you, farmers of color in the state of Kentucky. Who benefits from this podcast? Not just you, the farmer, but also the viewers that are around you and viewers inside the state, outside of the state. Selfishly, I have learned so much from the interviews that I've had, the people that I've talked to, and it's helped me progress as an urban farmer in the state. And I know meeting other people, being able to tap into resources and know about some of the struggles that other people have faced. Tell the narrative of what their farm is and who they are as a person in the state. If you have any other questions or are interested in being a guest on the Blackerberries podcast series, please reach out to the email on the screen. That being said, I will leave the floor open for any questions that any of you guys may have, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Let's give Mr. Barnes a hand, and also Ms. El-Amin. I'd like to say before we close, I would say that y'all try to attend our field day next month on third Thursday. We're going to have a big event. We're going to have indoor activities as far as outdoor activities. So that's next month, July, the third Thursday in July. Are there any questions? Any announcements? Okay, if not, this concludes our program for the day.